Dude, crazy fight card, by the way. 14 fights originally scheduled.
Yeah, fucking 8-fight prelim. I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw that, I was like, 8-fight
Was,
prelim starting at 1 p.m. my time. I was like, oh yeah, we're in for a long one, boys.
yeah,
But
bro. Like, it was going to be like, well, honestly, they did a good job to like hurry it along, actually, and like not
yeah,
do a bunch of commercials, which just makes me think like they could always do that.
yeah, dude. I'm so glad you brought up that point. So it's like, at first I thought it was gonna be annoying because there were so many fights, and then I realized, regardless of the number of fights, we're sitting down for the same amount of time. Like they,
Yeah, the
yeah.
time slot
So
doesn't change.
it was back to back to back to back, and I honestly felt like it went by faster than a 5-fight prelim. As
Yeah,
strange as that sounds, there was no bullshit, there was no filler, there wasn't watching the little UFC 263 embedded little
that's what I was going to
snippets
say.
like
Is
80
we didn't have to
times.
watch. Yes, exactly. We didn't have to watch the main event and get pumped 80 times before we watch the main event.
Yeah, it's like once, twice. By the third time, I got it, dog.
Right.
Like,
Like I'll start reciting the lines with the guys at that point.
for real. And I mean, let's be real. Rozenstruik Sakai, a little hard to sell as far. You know what I'm saying? So it's
So
like,
hard to sell.
I didn't need the fucking used car lot salesman. Come on down and see Rozenstruik Sakai. I didn't need any of that. But it is Beefy Boys Breakdown episode 49. Next week, it is perfect that it's after an Izzy pay-per-view because that'll
I know.
officially be
Yeah.
our 1-year episode. So yeah, episode 49. We're gonna do 50 podcasts in 52 weeks. Not too shabby, my friend.
Pretty
Yeah,
damn
we're
impressive,
covering.
I'd say.
Yeah, man, it's been a fun journey. UFC Fight Night, Rozenstruik Sakai. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't this originally supposed to be Gane versus Volkov, but
Mm,
that got scrapped, or it was a Gane? Or maybe I'm tripping. I could
I
have
think
sworn
that's the
this.
week after Izzy and is it not in 2 weeks?
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm tripping. Yeah, for some reason I thought this wasn't supposed to be a main event, and then something happened, and this became the main event. But I could be wrong. It was some banging heavyweights, some top 10 heavyweights. That's it's a little bit of lazy on the promotions end, but that'll do for a main card. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did feel that laziness though, for real.
Yeah,
Like
like they didn't, but they didn't really try to blow smoke up our ass. They didn't try to tell us how
they
important this fight was. They're
and
just
they
like, hey,
didn't
these are some big scary dudes. You want to watch this fight?
and they didn't run like
Oh, your audio cut out.
is it not you know what I
What
mean?
a
Is it not
fuck.
obvious?
Yeah.
Is it not obvious?
Yeah, man.
Uh
That's all good, brother.
jeez,
But what were you saying real quick?
that is next level. I was just saying that they didn't try to come at us with like a quality argument. Like they literally just were like, "Yo, here's 14 fights in 6 hours. Enjoy."
Yeah, enjoy it. And I mean, Rozenstruik Sakai, I mean, don't get me wrong. That fight has and had firework potential, and I think it delivered. Oh, man, like, as we alluded to, plenty of fights to get to, so let's get to them. I said 8 prelims, so we'll try our best to speed through them, but you try to speed through 8 breakdowns, and good luck. We got Claudio Playas, plus 175 underdog, squaring off against Jordan Levitt, the Monkey King, minus 210. 8-0 Dana White Contender Series guy. He got the slam KO his last time out, which kind of helped build his, reputation and name.
It's how I remembered him, honestly.
Stuck out in my brain. I mean, I'll be real. Like, there's a lot of these guys that it's like, and I've said this before on the podcast, the name on paper doesn't stand out, but then I'll see their face or see their record, or I'll be like, oh
Right.
yeah, it'll all come back to me. But yeah, no, when I saw Jordan Levitt, I was like, oh yeah, that's the mixed dude that slammed homie. And yeah, so yeah, it did a lot for his career, that slam. Not
Yeah.
enough to get him off of the first fight of the card, but hey, it's only his second UFC fight. I feel it. But yeah, fighting at lightweight. And man, I actually thought this was first round super entertaining. Kind of lost steam a little bit in second and third, but man, there was some fantastic grappling, fantastic transitions.
The first round scrambles were fantastic, man.
Yeah.
But what was weird to me was that I feel like Jordan Levitt was slow in every move he made. Like
Yeah,
it felt
yeah,
methodical, don't get me wrong, but it also was just lacking like actual speed. Like some of those moves you just have to hit fast.
You know what immediately came to my mind? Anybody out there that's ever played any sport, it doesn't have to be fighting. You've probably heard a coach tell you, like the less you're thinking, the faster your feet are moving, or like different
Right.
coaches, depending on region, will phrase that differently. But that's kind of like the main point there is like you want to play fast. You don't want to think too much. You want to be reacting, not thinking.
And
In
if you're
any
going to make a
sport, whether
mistake,
that's
make it at 100%.
yes, and like those are principles that I feel like translate literally whether you're playing baseball, track, whatever the case may be, football, fighting. Um, and I think that's what was happening. I don't think he was like physically slow. I think he was the classic example of when you're thinking, your feet aren't
Yeah,
moving. And
for
that's what
sure.
he reminded me of, because as a former linebacker, there's a lot of reads, but you have to be moving while you make your reads. You can't be sitting there thinking about what reads you're going to make and then try to react. It's going to be a disaster. That's kind of what it reminded me of a little bit. More of like that mental, like that just thinking too much. Because he's a very smart, articulate guy, and he strikes me as a personality type that would have a problem thinking too much, you know? So
Yeah.
that's
And we always talk about, well, not even we, but in just general sports psychology, flow state is like what you want to be
yeah,
in, but you're not
yeah.
thinking when you're in flow. You're just
You're
flowing.
reacting, muscle memory. Yes. Yeah,
And
for
like
sure.
for him, like you could see it on his face. You could see it on his face. He was like thinking through the positions and trying to react in what he thought would happen rather than just feeling the motions like you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Like we always talk about the best top jiu-jitsu guys. A lot of people think of jiu-jitsu at the bottom, and that proves to be not as effective in MMA. But a lot of the top elite top jiu-jitsu guys, we always say it's almost like they're like riding like a rodeo, just staying on top, riding
Right.
the wave. And that's the definition of reacting. You feel and react. Yeah, there's not. Yeah, for sure. And listen, young fighter, eight professional fights. You know, you like to think that you know those type of things improve. You know, with octagon time. Now, round one. I thought Levitt did win it 10-9. He led the grappling, landed some ground and pound, but Puelles ended the round on top, and I think that was some foreshadowing of some things to come. I think he kind of cracked the puzzle and you know made some adjustments.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, I think he finished on top for like the last 30, 25 seconds, something like that. Like, it wasn't
Yeah,
super
like not
long.
enough to steal the round, but enough to
Right.
like he
To sh-
corrected some things.
right. And to show, at least to himself and maybe to us too, like watching the fight, like, he was going to start having success there because he had figured it out.
Yeah, he seemed like the much more athletic guy, the much
More
more probably in
aggressive
better
too.
shape, probably the better athlete of the two, for sure. And then yeah, I feel like from then on, it was pretty much all Puelles. I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with cardio. He seemed like the much fresher guy, and he did, like I said, I think it all comes back to I think he was fighting and not thinking. Like you know, I think he was
Right.
reacting. I think he was listening to his coaches. I think he was sticking to his game plan. I don't think he was in there necessarily. We always use sometimes the chestnut checkers analogy in fighting, but that can be a detriment too. Like I said, if you are thinking too much, and I said he was in there fighting, he was in there reacting, he was in there using his quick twitch. You know, yeah, I feel like he had the better cardio, and I feel like that's what kind of mattered in the end. I had him get winning rounds 2 and 3, 10-9.
Yeah, me too. So we both agree 29-28. And then I think all three judges scored it the same as well, correct? Or did
Yeah,
one go 30-27?
no, all three judges agreed with us. I do say Puelles, like this whole fight honestly reminded me kind of like some sparring. Like there wasn't a lot of damage. Like
That's
neither guys. Like Puelles wasn't inflicting a lot of damage. Levitt wasn't inflicting a lot of damage.
It was like a slow start, you know what I mean, to the
Yeah,
overall card itself.
I didn't feel that like animosity. Like I don't
Mm-mm.
know, like I didn't. But you know, not all fights have that. That's what the fights that do have that. That's what makes it special. But I mean, it was a good fight. Good way to start the card off with an upset. Plus 175 cashes for Puelles. I don't know how many people probably bet that. I think most people probably had their money on Levitt or just didn't bet this fight. You know, it's crazy. Before this card, and I talked to you, I asked you if you put any money down, and you said not this week. I couldn't really. There was nothing that I felt like I just had to place a bet on this week. And apparently we weren't alone. I saw so many UFC fighters that normally tweet out their predictions saying like no predictions this week. Like
Yeah, it's
is it
just
Billy Quarantillo? I think he usually
yeah.
is real known for his Twitter predictions. He was like, "Fuck if I know." Like, I think he had like a homie he was rooting for, but I don't think he made it. Everybody was real, like not putting their neck out there on any predictions this week. Like, I didn't hear any bold hot takes of like, "Go bet the house on this guy."
The
Everybody,
the only one I liked was Rozenstruik, but like with heavyweights, man, it's
yeah.
fucking scary to bet on heavyweights because shit,
And
one
that was
shot
the
ends the fight.
closest money line. Yeah, and that was the closest money line on the card. So it's like, yeah, between the heavyweight factor and actually Vegas telling us, like, hey, this is going to be a kind of any man's fight. I'm so glad you said that because, yeah, looking at it on paper, just knee-jerk reaction, I liked Rozenstruik a lot in this fight, but I was like, I mean, Vegas don't like him that much, and they are heavyweights, and you know what I mean? And he is coming off a loss, which I know Sakai was coming off a loss too, but, and he didn't look great in that Gane fight at all. Like, he looked pretty awful. And so it's like, it's not like I was just itching to go put money on Rozenstruik last night, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, interesting fight or card from a betting perspective, but yeah, we can keep it pushing, but I definitely want to touch on that.
Yeah. If you want to go ahead and introduce the next one, I didn't get to write the odds for it, so
oh yeah, no worries, brother.
Leave it hanging.
Yeah. Sean Woodson, minus 160 favorite, fighting Yusuf Zalal plus 135. Man, this was an interesting matchup. Got to admit, Sean Woodson's the perfect example of a guy on paper didn't recognize that name at all. Saw his face, was like, "Oh, this guy, the lanky featherweight guy." Like you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. I don't know if it was like that, but you're like.
Yeah, well, for me, it's like, I saw him and I was like, oh, yeah, the 6'2" fucking guy that makes 145. That's right.
So it looks like Tayshaun Prince.
Yes, dude. When you said that, I was like, oh, my God. The dude looks just like Tayshaun Prince, especially when you consider the guys that he's fighting against are 145 actual build. So he looks like he's 6'10", super long build in the octagon against him, which makes it even funnier.
I saw Chauncey Billups and Ben Wallace in the corner, man. I thought I saw Rasheed Wallace holding the bucket. I thought real quick, but yeah, man. Fighting at featherweight, as Harrison alluded to, 6'2", which is just absurd for the featherweight division. Yusuf Zalal, guy started off super red hot in the UFC. Was essentially building the hype train, building the rocket ship. Started facing some losses. Started getting some holes poked in his game, and man. Over the course of this podcast, that's what I've learned, man. Like, your first couple fights in the UFC against either like gatekeepers or last-minute replacement guys or guys that are kind of on their way out of the UFC,
or brand new guys,
or contender series guys. Those first 3 or 4 fights, I don't want to say it's easy to look good because that is a gross misrepresentation. Nothing about it's easy, but how many guys have we come in? Seen look amazing, look like the next fucking it fighter against those first 3 couple of contender series veterans, gatekeepers. You get them in there with some other, there's a jump. I guess that's the best way I can put it.
There's levels, even in the UFC.
Levels.
But that's like what elevates the UFC to being what I would consider the best fight promotion in the world is just the fact that the base level is higher than most base levels out there for all the other organizations, and their top tier is higher than most other places' top tier, and
there's like a mid tier,
right? And their depth is more than most others. Like they kind of win in all 3 phases.
Yeah, no. So Law's the prime example of that, right? Am I right?
Right,
like,
because if he was in ONE FC, he'd be probably a top 15 guy.
Or Bellator, yeah. Any organization without the depth, because he's clearly not a scrub, and he's clearly better than like the lower echelon of fighters. But that mid-range depth, especially in a division like featherweight, bantamweight, lightweight, we always talk about the depth. But like those smaller guys, that middle depth right there, like I think that's the story of this fight. Like Sean Woodson is not really anybody to write home about, not going to be a future champion, but like he's still really good and presents issues to a really talented fighter like Zalal. But yeah, man, we'll get into it a little bit. I do want to go round by round on this one. Round 1, I actually thought Zalal came out looking great. I was actually really happy to see him looking so good. I think I even texted you saying like, "Oh, Zalal's looking," forget what I said, scrappy, feisty, something like that. But
yeah, and his game plan was really, really good too. Like I thought he was implementing a really strong approach as to how to kind of neutralize Woodson's length, attacking the legs, trying to like stop him from being able to plant and throw the jab at him.
Getting him pressed up against the cage some.
Yeah, he actually went to that a lot. He started to grapple a lot, which I was happy to see. Now, granted, I don't know that it paid out as well as maybe if he had tried to keep that distance and use his movement. He is so good at that.
I thought his movement looked great.
Yeah, exactly right. But I do think that like it showed that he's diversifying his skill set, which is also important for his growth because he's, like we're saying, a young guy, new fighter in the UFC for the most part. I know it's like his 5th or 6th fight, but he's taken them all in a year and a half.
Yes, yeah, and I think he's like 24 or something like that. So yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, still considered a young guy for sure. But man, round 2, I think the story of this fight was just like once Woodson was able to kind of use that length, and we talk about it all the time, and the broadcast teams love bringing it up, and how taking down a tall guy from throws is like they always say compared to trying to
The
take down
table.
a fucking table, yeah, like a coffee table, because they can just sprawl out and yeah, Zalal was trying to like kind of throw him down, and like that's not how you take down.
Mm-mm.
You got to like twist him, like
Inside, you got to
Dominic
do.
Cruz was describing great on the broadcast. You got to twist them on that double leg or single leg, but you gotta twist them so they can't use that length.
Yeah, you're exactly. Yeah, exactly right. It's almost like a Twizzler. You know what I mean? You got to twist and tilt it so that it just kind of doesn't have any balance because for Sean Woodson when you take him down and he's so long, right? You take him down in one direction. It literally is just him planting his arms and fighting that direction of force. Whereas like a tornado, for instance, is a cyclical force. So it's super hard for you to plant one direction against it. You'd actually have to be having equal force against it. So just like you're saying what Dominic Cruz is saying, you can't just take him straight down. And that's what makes Izzy so good too, is that until he fought Jan, his hips are so much stronger than most of those guys at 85 that they can't get him to be twisting off balance when they're trying to take him down.
Yeah, for sure, man. And then like to bring it full circle back to this fight, like in rounds 2 and 3, Zalal was going with that takedown heavy approach, which is understandable against a guy like Woodson, but like kind of one of those things, if it's not working, you got to have a plan B, and it wasn't working. Zalal finished this fight 2 for 17 on takedowns. And we always talk about how do you score around like that, right? Like if it got it makes
and I
it
will
weird.
say it made 2 and 3 really hard to score because he did keep him pressed on the cage for the most part. And and honestly, when they were standing and striking, it wasn't like that was that big of a difference for Woodson.
Yeah,
So,
I think Woodson did himself a lot of favors in rounds 2 and 3. He did lead the significant strikes by like a decent margin, which matters. And he threw in one in second and one in the third round those guillotine attempts that got decently deep.
The second he just had to ride out via time,
yeah.
And I actually thought that maybe that was what kind of sealed the second for Woodson, was putting him in that dangerous position because that was the most dangerous moment in the fight to that point.
Yep.
And then I would say that probably the same thing happened in the third, and in addition to him winning the striking battle as well.
Yes,
he just controlled bigger aspects of the fight in the third.
Yeah, I agree. And just like I said, Zalal just looked so like futile. Like what he was trying was so clearly not working that it's a weird way to score, but you can't score that for Zalal because what he was trying to do was getting thwarted. So you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And there was a little controversy when it came down to the final judge. And so you get 2 and 3 to Woodson?
Yes, yeah.
So did I. So we saw it the same way. So one judge gave it 29-28 Zalal, which he had to be scoring that.
This first and second is Zalal, right?
Yeah, but I still don't like that. Not rolling out the hill though, because and then the next 2 judges saw it the same way we did. It's 29-28, and so Sean Woodson gets the split decision. Man, I think he only has 1 loss on his record. He's like one of these guys that like it doesn't look pretty, but like he has 1 loss. I mean, it's hard to hate on him.
Yeah, he just doesn't get highlight wins, so the UFC doesn't market him like that. You know, they just make him a tough guy for other guys that they want to market off of him.
Matchup. Yeah.
Right, and because he has a good record, they can be like, "Oh, he beat this guy that was only 1 loss prior." You know what I mean? The UFC always runs these double-edged swords as far as their marketing goes, where they only help themselves.
Yeah, which I'm not mad at. It is a business after all, and but I think in a perfect world they were using this fight to build Zalal, but now is that
Correct.
2 or 3 losses in a row for Zalal?
I believe 3.
I believe it's 3. I can look it up real quick on Tapology, but
because he struggled with his last 2 opponents as far as them taking him down and him not having the best grappling to defend. And the first loss was like, it was obvious, it was shown, it was like embarrassing. Second loss was actually a much more competitive grappling match where you could tell he just still didn't have it, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. And looking back on it, that first loss was to Ilya Topuria, which that loss ages pretty well. He's a legit fighter. But now the loss to also Sungwoo Choi and Sean Woodson, not probably as good as Ilya Topuria. So, cause for concern. The hype train on Zalal is officially halted. All coal stopped being put in the train. And, I mean, 3 losses in a row, like, he'll be lucky to get another one. He's young. He has a lot of things kind of on his side. as reasons why they might give him another one, but there's no guarantees we see Zalal again in the octagon, which
I,
is crazy because a couple like since we've had this podcast, like at the beginning of the podcast, man, we were pretty high on Zalal, thought he had a bright future, and God, life comes at you fast in the UFC, does it not?
I believe he was 3-0 up to the point that he started losing as well in the UFC.
Yep, he was, in fact. Yes, he was.
So he's 3-3 in the UFC, but they usually sign guys to 6-fight contracts. So
Yeah,
I'll be
exactly.
very interested to see what happens as far as a Zalal booking.
Me too, man. Me too. It's probably
But
not looking so hot.
but he's super young, and 3-3 is like it's not a losing record, not a winning record. He's lost a split decision on his 6th fight against a really tough guy. I don't know, and he showed a good, diverse skill set.
Yeah, and he is getting better and becoming more well-rounded fight to fight. Now, I got to say, I think he's a classic example that came to the UFC too early. And looking back on this, and this is the last thing I want to say about Zalal, we'll keep it pushing, but his last win in the LFA was a flying knee first-round KO. So I have a feeling that flashy knockout kind of got him to the UFC too soon. Like, I think he should have probably had a couple more LFA fights.
I think we see that all too often too with the bigger guys that make it.
Yeah,
like the 85ers and 205ers that get debuts that just get smoked in their debut, and you're like, how'd this guy get here? And then you see like, oh, they have like 5 knockouts and 5 wins, and it's like, all right, but who are they fighting?
Yeah, fighting pump jockeys. I feel you, man. But yeah. So Sean Woodson gets the split decision. Kind of a weird fight, but we'll keep it pushing because this next fight I think was really entertaining to watch. Mana and Fierro, mine is 575 favorite, biggest
favorite
money line on the card for sure. But for a reason, she's fighting Tabitha Ricci, 5-0, making her UFC debut. However, she took the fight on like 5 days' notice, and she's a strawweight that came up. And Fierro is she's a strawweight moving up, and Fierro is a very large flyweight. Like, it looked like David and Goliath in there.
I think the commentators noted it too, that like it literally was like sizable difference between the women fighting. Yeah. And Ricci was tough, man. Like, it's not like she just bowed out.
I like Ricci. I think if Ricci's fighting another strawweight, she does just fine in the UFC. I really do.
Yeah. Like, her skill set wasn't even bad. She's super tough. It's not like she just like crumbled down and got finished. No. Like,
had hand speed, had some power, had some fucking cojones. Like, she was down to trade.
And Manon Fiorot is supposed to be like this like super highly touted 125er that the UFC is literally trying to build to fight Valentina. Like, that's the goal with her.
Yeah. So, yeah. So like I said, I wasn't mad at this fight at all. Like, plus 425, and although it does end in a second round stoppage, it was more competitive than it was supposed to be, I guess would be the way to describe it. Given the huge money line, given all the factors.
Or I came away thinking that Ricci at least has UFC quality skills.
Against strawweights, 100%.
Correct.
I really want to see Ricci fight a strawweight. I really do, because she was eating some massive shots. I don't know how many strawweights are going to be able to inflict damage on her. And she didn't even get a chance to show off her wrestling skill set, which is apparently her bread and butter. So, like I said, I mean,
and grappling is so weight based, I would say, as well. You know, if it's going to be wrestling and like someone's 15 pounds heavier than you, especially when it's 15 pounds in the sense of 115, maybe 130. You know what I mean? 125. You know what I mean? Like, that's percentage-wise a huge percentage.
And I think like 6 or 7 inches in height as well. Yeah, no, it was crazy difference in just overall size, 100%. Now, Fiorot looked amazing. I think we've given Ricci his just due and all her moral victories. But Fiorot does win this fight, and she does look fantastic. And when it's all said and done, this fight was about Fiorot, and moving forward, it's going to be about Fiorot more than Ricci. So,
and like, it does help her brand. She looked great. Didn't take hardly any damage, so she can fight again quickly. And like, her combos are sick, dude.
Yeah, and the power, and it's like, it's kind of hard to judge the power because she was fighting somebody a weight class down essentially, but like, when she landed, like, it literally moved Ricci like backwards. Like, I'm not talking about moved her head backwards. I mean, like,
the whole body.
Moved her body backwards, like fucking, like, borderline cartoon status. Like, she was kind of flying around. Like,
she landed a couple body shots that like legit like threw the girl to the cage. Like, I was like, Jesus.
Like, kind of some Ivan Drago shit. It was like a big blonde European. Like, and seriously, like Ivan Drago.
She's like stacked too at 125. Like, she clearly cuts weight to get there.
She looks like almost like a buff ass. I don't even know. That was gonna be a bad
Like she
example. There's
looks like
nothing.
Holly Holm to me. Like and
I was
Holly
actually
Holm's
gonna say that. Oh my god, but like way more jacked. Like I know Holly
yeah,
Holm's in
like
good physical condition, but she looks like the young lion
Holly
version.
Holm looks more cut. Like Fiora looks like more like bulky stacked. And it's crazy
Yeah,
because
like more scary.
she fights 10 pounds lower sometimes because Holly's fought at 45 as well. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy that Fiora can make 25 and be that physically imposing. Like it could be trouble later down the road for some of these top 5 girls.
And what Father Time's undefeated. Fiora's much younger than Valentina too, so I mean, it could just be that passing of the torch, where not necessarily better in their primes, but hey, Father Time's undefeated. By the time she gets there, maybe some wear and tear, maybe lost a step a little bit, maybe I don't know. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but round one, Fiora. I didn't quite have it 10-8. I thought Ricci did enough and was returning fire and like wasn't going down. But I mean, Fiora did have 4 times the amount of significant strikes.
I
So
was
like,
so close on a 10-8, man.
yeah,
I literally was like 10-9, but like I'm a gasp away from calling this a 10-8.
and I'm not like calling any judge that gave it a 10-8, out of line.
Out of
So I
line,
feel
yeah.
we were in lockstep there. Controlled the distance, great, which is we say it should be easy to do when you're so much of a taller, bigger fighter. But how many times do
How
we
many
say it's easier
times?
said than
Yeah.
done, especially
How
against
many
a wrestler?
times?
So she managed the distance so good, the power, and it's cool too because so many times also when you use the word manage the distance, especially with the female fighters, you're kind of talking more of like a point fighter, like a Chikagian kind of esque. You know what I'm saying? But
Oh
but
yeah.
no, but this had the power mixed with the distance management, which kind of just chef's kiss of striking. It
It
was
was like a damage fighter, you know what I mean?
yeah, no, it was great. And then yeah, she gets the second round stoppage. No, I mean, it was more of an accumulation stoppage. I mean, she did put her
For
down,
sure.
but and then credit to Ricci, we
She's
emphasized
tough as
the
shit,
toughness.
man. Like
She got
just
back up, like Chael Sonnen always talks about fighters looking for a way out of the octagon, and that's how a lot of these knockouts and how a lot of these submissions happen. It's like a guy or a woman wanting to like find a way out of a fight that they don't have a chance of winning. But like Ricci had, and I say all that to say, Ricci had every opportunity to not get up, let the ref stop at that first knockdown. She got back up and she was still fighting. And like hats off, much respect. She's a fighter's fighter.
there's so many situations where I feel like the ref yells fight back at the fighter. In a situation where like, yeah, you could stop it, or if they're actually wanting to like continue, like they'll continue. And that was one of those situations where it was like Ricci was like, I'm not done. Like fuck that, I'll get
Yeah,
up. And
yeah,
like
no, I
but
loved it.
was just eating so many shots. The ref was like, "All right, I'm gonna save you from yourself."
Yeah, no,
Which,
saved it from
which
herself.
I love that. That's
I
how I
loved
would hope a
everything
fight
about
would
it.
be stopped.
Yeah, exactly. Because they did stop it before she got too pieced up. She got to have her pride go out on her shield. Fioro got to look even better. I mean, it was
Right?
kind of a
Yeah.
win-win for everybody.
Like
I'm not mad
everyone,
at
the
it at
ref.
all.
Was it Mark Smith that was the ref in that?
I think so. I didn't write it down, but
It
yeah,
wasn't. I didn't write that one down either. But it was. It was. I thought a good performance on like all parties. Like
yeah,
the
me too.
fighters, the ref, everyone involved in the entirety of the fight. Like the 3 people that matter in the fight, they all did their job phenomenally well. Even though
Yeah,
Ricci lost and got stopped, like she
yeah, I
for
agree.
5 days notice coming up weight class. I stock up on everyone that was in that
Stock
fight.
up on it. I hope Ricci gets another UFC fight for sure against the strawweight with a full camp. I really do. Like that's something I legit would want to watch. And then as far as Fioro goes, like I mean, get your shovels out, start shoveling coal.
I
She's looking
mean,
the part. I mean,
yeah, I'll hop on. I'll hop on. I'm not even at the
especially in
caboose.
the
Like I'll hop on the
flyweights,
middle of the train.
especially in the flyweights, like she's unranked yet, but like let's see here. I got the flyweights right
I
here. I mean,
mean, yeah, read me 10 through 15, and like I'll just start laughing.
but there are some decent names here. We got Alexa Grasso, Andrea Lee, Tyler Santos, Miranda Maverick, Macy Barber, and Antonina Shevchenko. So I think 100% she beats Antonina Shevchenko. Those other girls, though, I mean, she could probably win the fights, but those are good fights. Those are tough girls. Like I think the flyweights are starting to kind of
Starting to
deepen up
populate.
a little bit. Or people, I think so, because right, that's not a
I
horrible
think
10 through 15. That sounded good on the
it
ears, right?
sounded good, but I still think Fiora. I think Fiora is like probably going to beat all those girls.
Yeah, and she's so
The
much
the
bigger than all those girls, at least
yeah.
just in my mind's eye. Like I don't know, I don't have like the heights and weights in front of me, but
That 5 to
Looking
9,
on it,
5 to 10 range will be really telling for her because
yeah.
the top four plus Valentina are kind of in this weird like deadlock where they've already proven that they're better than everyone else in the division, and they're just kind of in this like race to see who can outlast Valentina to where the point that like you're talking about Father Time starts to degrade her skills.
Or it's like, man, Cynthia Calvillo is ranked fifth. Like, you mean to tell me Fiorot could easily knock out Cynthia Calvillo? Like, I'm not
Right,
saying actually easily is not the right word, but plausibly, like
and
possibly,
it's
like
and
it
it's
could
a
happen.
matchup thing. You're not just saying that because it's like, oh, I just think that she'd piece her out. It's like, well, no, like Cynthia Calvillo tries to get in close and grapple, and like with a girl that's this much bigger physically, like it's gonna be really tough to impose a physical game plan, and then her striking is so much more damaging and advanced. Like, yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
there's a
get it.
path to victory there. Yeah, for sure. So, we can give him a push, but goddamn, Fioro's exciting. Like, and honestly, and I mean this seriously, not named Valentina Shevchenko. When's the last time we were like literally like pumped about a women's flyweight? Like I'm looking at the list. I mean, I'll watch these ladies fight. They're tough, but I'm not like necessarily like juiced about. I mean, I like, yeah, I think this is probably the most exciting flyweight prospect, and since we've probably been doing the podcast, I think. So yeah,
Yeah.
want
Oh
to give
yeah.
her
Oh yeah. Women's flyweight prospect is for sure the number one prospect since we've been doing it. Yeah.
for sure, man. Definitely just wanted to give her a just due, but we'll keep it pushing. We got Alon Patrick, not to be confused with former OU running back Alan Patrick, plus 270 underdog fighting Mason Jones minus 340, and man, we got a little bit of an anticlimactic finish here, but not. Like, this is one where the fans know who won, and the fighters know who won as well.
Okay,
Even
I'm
though
glad you say it. I am so glad you introduced it that way, man, because I wondered how you felt about this.
yes, yes. So and also I want to ask you how you scored round one. I'll let you go first.
Oh, I scored it to Mason Jones for sure.
10-9, 10-8?
I don't know about 10-8. I don't know. I
See,
was like,
I
I was
felt pretty
so,
strong about 10-8 on this one.
man,
Like,
I was so fence on this one. So I gave it a 10-8, but then I went back and actually watched this fight a second time,
oh, okay.
and I don't know that because it wasn't like so dominant. You know
Well,
what I
so
mean?
here's kind of,
But
if I was a lawyer, these would be my points. A, Keith Peterson literally almost stopped it. That almost always gets you a 10-8,
that's
like
true.
right end of sentence. But also there was like, I also like to factor this in. When they were on the feet, he was much better on the feet. When they were on the cage, he was much better against the cage. When they were on the floor, he was much better on the floor. Like that total domination and kind of just eliminating all paths to victory. Like, I'm not saying all judges, or I'm not even saying anybody watching it should judge fights this way, but like when I'm judging a fight and debating a 10-8, I factor that in, right, wrong, or indifferent. So yeah,
Maybe I'm
I
just
felt pretty good
maybe
about the 10-8.
maybe I'm crediting Patrick's toughness too much because
Oh, toughness, fuck, yeah.
when he's on the ground and getting wailed on and Peterson yells at him to fight back, he immediately turns, gets up, and stands up. Even though he's like busted up and shit. I just felt like the second time I watched it, I was like, maybe he's not as hurt as I thought, because I thought he was hurt bad in the first time I watched it. The second time I was like,
Yeah.
maybe he's not as hurt.
And I didn't watch it twice, so I totally value, what you have to say about it. But either way,
In the
clearly
moment, I gave
Mason
it a 10.
Jones.
In the
Yeah,
moment,
and
I gave it a
Mason
10.
Jones won and it was a
It was
very,
dominant. It was
very,
dominant.
very good round for Mason Jones. Exactly. It looked like the much better fighter. Now, was it round one or was it early round two when an accidental eye poke happened?
Round two.
Okay, so in round two, there's an
But
accidental eye
early
poke.
round two.
Early round two, yeah. Early round two. So really all we have to go off of essentially before the eye poke is the round one. And we just described how dominant of a round one it was for Jones. But there was an eye poke, and right, wrong, or indifferent, Alan Patrick was unable to continue.
They asked him if he could see. He said no.
He said no. I'm not going to call him. I'm not going to question him. I don't do that. I'm not like these people that like making Aljo jokes. Like that's not what I do. So he was unable to continue. It's ruled a no contest because only one round had been completed. But as I alluded to before we started breaking it down, the fans and I believe the fighters in their heart of hearts, we all know who was going to win that fight, who essentially did win that fight. But goes down on the record book, says not a win or an L, just an NC, which, I don't think anybody likes that. Nobody gets a win bonus.
But you saw what happened after the fight, right? So they announced the no contest, um, and then Patrick like turns to go shake Mason Jones's hand, and Mason Jones turned to walk away from the center of the octagon, and I guess Patrick like says something like Mason or says something like hey, you know what I mean? And has his hand outstretched. Mason Jones looks at him and he goes, no, and he's like, no, I'm not shaking your hand, and then walks out of the octagon.
So I'll say this from like a pure sportsman's point of view. I'm sure people didn't love that. However, as somebody who's the sorest loser in the history of the earth, like me, like unless we win in impressive fashion, I don't even like close wins. Like unless I
Yeah,
personally had a great game and
right.
the team fucking won by at least 2 touchdowns, I'm not going to be that great to talk to for at least like an hour and like 3 beers are in my system.
Yeah,
Like
because
seriously,
even close wins, I stress about close wins
yeah,
because I'm like,
yeah.
fuck, dude, like we could
So
have fucked that up.
it's like, do I think Mason Jones feels that way this morning? No,
No, he feels like
and
he got robbed.
and it wouldn't shock me at all if there was like a DM sent or anything like that. Like Mason Jones seems like a good guy, but I'm just saying, like before we are too hard on Mason Jones in that moment, like I relate to that type of shit. Like I whoop a dude's ass, and you tell me it's a no contest. And like I may or may not even believe if he can see or not, but he may just want to be getting out of this ass whooping in the heat of the moment. That's probably the thoughts going through his mind. Yeah, like I'm not probably wanting to shake your hand either, Doug. But like I said, and I don't want to speak for Mason Jones. Maybe he still thinks fuck Alan Patrick, but I'm willing to bet that sitting in his home in Wales, or I think wherever he's from,
Yeah,
fucking he's probably sitting there having some tea, thinking like, "Damn, that was probably a dick move. I probably should have just shook his hand." But man, as somebody who's like, I'm a sore loser and I'm not super fun to talk to after something bad happens in an athletic performance. Or dude, even now, like I skateboard, like when I have a bad skating day, like I won't talk to Nina like the whole car ride home. Like just don't fucking like I still have that competitiveness in me, bro. So it's like I relate to not wanting to shake the guy's hand. Like I don't know,
no,
we can keep it
I
pushing
had
though.
no, I had no problem with it. I was just gonna say as well that like for Mason Jones, he's this young prospect. Used to have 2 belts in the previous organization. Lost his intro fight in like what I thought was a shitty decision. I thought he got robbed in the split he lost. But so yeah, takes that L. Immediately gets his stock down. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
then Alon Patrick hardly ever fights until recently has started being more active, but he's old. And
yeah.
then I think also it's the idea too that they asked him, "Can you see?" And he immediately is like, "No." But then they didn't give him any time for that to start clearing up.
And like, aren't they supposed to do like the test with like the little
Like the little
flashlight, like
light.
to like see if their eyes reacting? Yeah, I feel that. Let me see here. Yeah, Mason Jones. Yeah, he has that loss to Mike Davis. There was a controversial decision.
Yeah,
So yeah,
Beast
he has
Boy.
2 fights in the UFC, 1 L and 1 no contest. But I feel like somehow his stock is still super high. I'm high on him. I think he's a really nice lightweight prospect. Like there's not
Yeah,
too many unranked lightweights that I think he would be an underdog against. I'll put it that way. Like
right.
his skill set is there, man, and I don't think that's anybody's debating that. Just
And honestly, it was on display last night. He just poked a guy in the eye by complete accident.
yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's a rough one, yeah. But exciting lightweight, like I said. And Alan Patrick, he's getting old. He's gonna keep fighting in these prelim fights, I guess, as long as he wants to. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. I'm not gonna dive too far down there. But all right, we're starting to get to the names on this card. Granted, Eustace Law's a decent name, but it's a decent name on a 3-fight skid. We got Makwan Amirkhani -200 fighting Kamala Kirk, making his debut as a +170. And I gotta say, man. Tough debut. Makwan
So
Amirkhani is your debut.
I was shocked that this was this guy's debut, especially when they told us his backstory about how he came on the Contender Series or something like that, like years ago, and won his fight, but not in super impressive fashion. And they talked to him again in the fighter meetings, and they said, "What was that like?" And he was like, "Well, back then I thought I was ready." And he was like, "But today I
Yeah.
know I wasn't ready." And he was like, "And that's a big difference in my mentality today."
And I think that goes full circle back to what we were saying about the Zalal conversation, how he got
Right.
there too early. Like, I'm sure he thought he was ready. And then after getting 3 wins, I'm sure he thought he was even more ready. But hindsight 2020, I think ever seen. Also, quick note on Topology, Makwan Amirkhani, they have like a picture for everyone. This is the first time I've seen a non-fighting picture. It's Makwan Amirkhani drinking a martini with 4 hot blondes like all on him. on
Mr.
everything.
Finn,
With like
dude,
poker chips all over. He looks like James Bond or Hugh Hefner. That's hilarious.
Mr.
Mr.
Finland
Finland.
Mac 1 Amirkani. Let's go. That's fucking
Just
tight.
crushing Norwegian puss, Norwegian
Usually it's just like
slap.
their face like this or like a fist, and they're fucking like salty.
Oh man. All right, so we'll get into it. You know, Amir Khan is coming off the loss to Barbosa, but fuck, it's Barbosa. And he, you know, and then he has his other loss before that was to Shane Burgos. And then Amir Khan, I
Yeah.
consider him a tough fighter. I think he's a good fighter. I think that's a gnarly debut. And I think to only be a plus 170 underdog fighting Amir Khan as your debut, I mean, Vegas and the fight community as a whole seemed to feel pretty good about Kirk. And then he put it on display. Now, I do want to go round by round here because I
Oh
actually
yeah,
did. Okay,
me too.
okay.
Me
We got
fucking
something here.
too.
Okay, for sure. You know what? You go first. I'm gonna spark up this joint.
For sure. So, like we said, Kamuela Kirk at plus 170 and Mac 1 Americani minus 200, 145 pounds. Dude, I thought Mac 1's wrestling was on just full display in the first round. I thought he looked like he was way more comfortable with the transitions, way more comfortable as far as like all the grappling engagements. Now, Kirk looked way better as far as like the distance striking though too.
Yes.
So it was
Yes.
really important that Amir Khani got to those positions that I felt like he got to in the first round because that was literally his path to victory.
Yeah, and I mean, Amir Khan is known for his wrestling, right? So, I mean, I don't think that's like necessarily a knock or shock to anybody. I think that's how people probably thought this was going to go. Yeah, I had it 10-9 Amir Khan in round one. I valued
me
the
too.
wrestling.
Me
That
too.
big throw. And it would have been
Dude.
one thing. And then he took him down again after that throw. Like, so the throw wasn't just like a pointless style points throw. Like, it was actually impacted the fight greatly. I thought it was the most impactful move of the first round. Now, I do say that with the caveat. If you want to make a highlight,
move. You know what I mean?
make a highlight reel of round one, there's going to be some clean shots landed by Kurt. Like, I had it. It was
True.
a very close round in all caps, but I did lean 10-9 Amir Khan. I valued the wrestling. I valued the throw. I valued the takedowns and the control.
Interestingly enough, that throw, if that was in an Olympic wrestling match, would win the round outright. That's a 5-point throw.
I'm glad you
So,
brought
like,
that up.
Yeah, so just as far as like pure wrestling perspective, that was like an intense throw for him to hit, but it's also one of those things that uses a lot of energy in an MMA fight. I don't know that I thought that was a wise decision or a good move to do because it doesn't inflict a lot of damage. It's all about control and back exposure. And then granted, he's a wrestler by trade, so like it's what he's comfortable doing, it's what he resorts to, it's what he knows. But it's also one of those things where it's like, you know, in a boxing match, you're not going to throw an elbow. So, like, don't do a 5-point throw in an MMA match because it's not 5 points. It's just another throw, but it's a lot more energy you're using.
Man, I'm so glad you added that perspective as the former wrestler. That would have totally gone right over my head. So, yeah, thank you so much for adding that to the show for sure. Great points. But that being said,
I still scored it for Amir Khan. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
that's an impressive move to hit, and it's clearly a move of like dominant control because you're fully in control of your opponent's entire body weight. And then, like you said, he got actually into the takedown after that. And then I thought he did a good job on the cage. Like, I thought he won the round. Now, granted, like you said, Kirk landed some good shots.
He did. He landed some clean shots.
But the amount of control and, like, honestly, kind of like physical dominance that Amir Khan was asserting in the grappling exchange, I thought was more in the first round. Like, it was enough to win.
Amir Khan wore those clean shots very well. They didn't like open up any cuts or break any.
Well, and after fighting guys like Barboza and Burgos,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can't imagine that Kirk's hitting much harder than those guys, if harder at all.
Yeah, exactly. Like, dog, I just fought Barbosa. Like, I'm not scared of what you got for sure. Definitely a factor, just the experience. Now, round two, another super close round. Another kind of round where I couldn't see it score in any way. But once again, I valued Amir Khan's wrestling, his top control. But once again, Kirk had the better striking, and he did throw in some bottom BJJ, which
the armbar is what allowed me to give the round to Kirk. Believe it or not.
Yeah, no, and I'm not mad at that. Like, I don't even have any like roll out the hill. So we already disagree. I had it 2018 Amir Khan. Granted, two essentially coin flip 2018s, and then you had it 1919.
Right. And only reason being,
I
I literally had Amir Khan winning the round until that armbar got put in, and he was just kind of surviving it, man. It was I don't know how he survived it, to be quite honest
Yeah,
with you. There were a couple times that it got cranked and like you saw his elbow start to invert, and I was like, this guy has to tap. He must have great flexibility. I'm sure grappling for so long, he has good joint flexibility. But
yeah,
damn, man, I was like, that's close to a fight-ending position. So
yeah, yeah. No, no, I feel you. I feel you. And it was a razor thin round, and man, scoring submissions that don't finish a fight is almost similar to scoring takedown defense. It's like, how do you score that? It's like you're doing the right
I
thing, but
know.
it doesn't, like, you
But
see what
but
I'm saying? It's murky.
but there's also a line that you can draw definitively, which is if you damage the joint, but they just don't tap. Like Tony Ferguson, for instance, like he
Yeah, yeah,
was in that third round against Oliveira, he couldn't
yeah,
use his arm. So you
yeah.
have to factor that into scoring that round. Is that like, oh, you just took a weapon away from your opponent in the entirety of the rest of the fight? Like you probably
Yeah,
have to win that round.
and I don't think that happened here, though. I think this like
No,
kind
no,
of
no, no.
walked
Like
right up to that line, maybe danced around the line, but yeah,
it
didn't
was just
cross that
close to
threshold.
being. It was close to being that threshold.
Yeah, for
Exactly
sure.
right. Yeah, exactly right. So that was why I
Super
went
close
to.
round. Super close
Now,
round. Not mad at it.
interestingly enough, though, in the third round, I actually was leaning toward Amir Khani.
That's crazy. In the third round, I leaned Kirk. It was super razor thin round. This fight was awesome. I thought this fight had
Yeah.
fight of the night potential until the
Until later, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
a clear fight of the night. I'm glad we
there
agreed.
was.
I'm
But
pretty sure
this
Dana
fight was,
agreed.
yeah, he did. Yeah, this was fantastic. There was a lot of great fights. There was a lot of great
Yeah,
fights last
this was
night.
a good
For real.
card. It's a good
I
card.
was thoroughly enjoyed it. I really did.
I think
But
anytime
yeah,
there's low betting going on, I think that means they're going to get a good card because
yeah,
the unexpected is expected, which always
yeah.
puts you in a precarious position.
Man, and it's crazy because my notes for this round read very similarly to my notes for the previous two
For
rounds.
round two,
I just thought Kirk did a tiny bit more on the striking, and I thought that Amir Khani's gas tank started to fade
it
in
did
round
start to
three.
fade a little bit. I will
And
give
I
you
thought
that.
Kirk was the fresher fighter, which meant that he was able to keep it on the feet more, where he was always winning all essentially the whole fight he was winning on the feet. It just Amir Khani was not letting the fight take place on the feet much of the first two rounds, which is why I leaned Amir Khani the first two rounds. But I think in the third round, Kirk was able to keep it on the feet more, largely due to conditioning. But Amir Khani did have some great wrestling moments once again. So, like, it's kind of weird that I liked Amir Khani's wrestling in the first two rounds, but in round three, I don't know. I don't think it was quite enough. But it's razor thin fight to score.
Weird that we went opposite on the rounds, but either way, we got to the same score,
We did, which is
we
wild.
both had Amir Khani winning 29-28.
Yes, which no judge
And
agreed with.
let me ask you this: if it's one FC, who do you think wins that fight? That's a way harder way to score this fight.
It is, which is weird because that
the rounds were
usually
already
clarifies it.
Correct.
Like usually the one method clarifies the murkiness of the round by round, but I don't think that's the case here because
exactly
as you saw,
why
we debated.
It's exactly why I asked because I was like, I think in whole fight perspective, it's even harder to score it.
Yeah, man. And so one judge scored at 30-27 for Kirk, which
that is fucking absurd. The first,
I won't go absurd because it's essentially 3 coin tosses. So it's like if you toss a coin,
first was that much of a coin flip. I thought the first was like a weighted coin, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was a close round though, man. Especially if
close.
you're valuing damage and striking. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, man.
I guess it does depend on if you like striking or grappling more.
It does.
I always obviously lean to the grappling, just out of nature. But yeah, if you only like striking, or if you heavily lean on striking, you would definitely like Kirk in round one in that perspective.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, like, I'm not saying I'm not rolling out the hill, even though I do think it's weird. This is a weird one. This is a really weird fight to score. Even using different scoring methods, it's still a hard fight to score.
But
that's the only reason why I'm not rolling out the hill to die on this one.
So you think rounds 1, 2, and 3 would be like coin flips, though, for the most part, right?
I really do. I have close in all caps written on my notes for all 3 rounds.
So you don't think 30-27 is egregious, though, to flip that coin one way the whole way? Oh, well, I guess it would be a stylistic approach because if you appreciate that style, you would obviously score it that way.
And if you really look at the math of a coin flip, it's extremely unlikely that it lands on heads 3 times, but it's not absurd. It's not
I've flipped a coin and seen head 3 times in a row. No, it's not to say I haven't seen tails 3 times in a row.
So that's what I'm saying. So it's like it's not inconceivable. I roll out hills on
It's
the
fair.
inconceivable. Like I don't like even know what fight
Like
you
you can't
watch.
logically justify it.
Yeah, and this
That's what a
one,
hill is.
like I can play devil's advocate and get to where he got. You see what I'm saying? Which, like I said, doesn't to me warrant a hill. But listen, Campbell Kirk wins a debut over as an underdog over Amir Khani. That's gonna age well. Right now, we look at it as kind of a fluky coin flip.
It's going to age great, but I just wonder, are they going to try to rocket ship him too fast? Because it wasn't like this was a dominant victory.
No. Razor thin. Could have gone either way. But that tends to fade with history. Like I said, the more time goes by, the more just, you look up on Tapology and see who wins. You know what I'm saying? The
So
story
true.
of
So
how
true.
close is like after 3 years or 2 years, for the most part, people don't talk about how close a fight was. They talk about that win-loss record.
Like split decisions will make me nervous when I look at a record, but a unanimous, I'm always like, oh, okay, cool. But like, I say that like, oh, unanimous is clear cut. This was not clear cut by any means,
Clear cut,
which is so like deceiving as far as when you look at like a Tapology result. It's probably the same as Mason Jones and Mike Davis. I think Mike Davis won that by unanimous decision. However, I had scored it 29-28 for Jones. So it just goes to show you like, yeah, there is so much wiggle room in scoring, and the way a decision can be unanimous. It can be a close unanimous. It could be a coin flip unanimous. It could be outright unanimous.
100%, brother. And we will keep it pushing. We got Francisco Trinaldo, UFC veteran, plus 190 underdog, fighting Muslim Salikov, minus 230 at welterweight. Yeah, man. Like, it's definitely slept on. Definitely underrated fighter, especially in the welterweight division. Nobody talks about him. I think he has
feel like we were high.
losses. No, we were,
high.
and still am. But I'm just saying, like, you never hear his name. Like I said, I follow every MMA page, podcast, anything you can. Nobody talks about Muslim Salikov, and man, he's a fucking good fighter.
To me, he's like Fazeev. Like you don't hear their name a lot, but when you see him, you're like, damn, this guy's impressive as shit. Like Salikov has these crazy spinning attacks.
Yes, yeah. And it's crazy. So he's a Dagestani that has amazing striking and does like spinning kicks and shit, but clearly has good wrestling to fall back on. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like he checks a lot of boxes for me, and he has a chin. He has like a fighter's mentality. Like he comes forward. He's tough. He's willing to engage. But he still has crisp technique. Like
I feel like every time we watch Salikov, we get bigger and bigger on him, but he gets no run from the press.
He gets no run at all, and I mean, maybe that starts to change. Maybe he needs to be a little more active too. Probably would help him.
Well, Trinaldo's a good name too to get as a victory. I think that was a part of the marketing too here, is because correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm almost positive Trinaldo has fought Khabib like 8 years ago.
Oh, yeah, because Trinaldo moved up from lightweight. Yeah, Trinaldo spent most of his career, years and years. And years
I'm almost positive back in like 2014 or 2013, Khabib set the record for most takedowns in a fight against Francisco Trinaldo. I could be wrong about that, but...
Let's see here. I got you, dog.
A little Tapology on me. And watch me be wrong. It's like Gleison Tibau or something like that. That's like a very similar Brazilian.
It was Gleison Tibau.
I knew it, man. I knew it. I had that bad feeling.
Oh, man, but it's all good. Yeah, so it was actually Trinaldo's first fight at welterweight, which, goddamn, what a first. But they can't give him, I don't know. I don't feel bad for him. I'm saying Muslim Salikov to move up in a weight class and have Muslim Salikov. That's a tough night at the office, for sure, man. And then I had round 1, 10-9 Salikov, but it was a way. I mean, this was a banger. His first round had some heat, man. They were trading, they were landing, they were throwing, and it's crazy.
You think the first round was really close?
Yeah, man. I thought that that Salikov pretty much stole the round. Like
really,
dude, Trinaldo was landing. Now it's one of those. This fight is weird, so I know where you're coming from. When you look at the strike numbers on this fight, Salikov, I think, doubled or tripled him almost every round.
Yeah, I almost 10-8'd the first round.
Nah, dude, because every time Trinaldo landed, it was a fucking piss missile from hell.
But I don't feel like he landed that many times.
I think he landed like literally like 9 times, but they were literally like 9 like as hard and clean as humanly possible, which to me I scored a 10-9 Salikov, but to me, if you
I
land
scored it.
9 haymakers, like if you like clean on the chin, like fucking dude, like from the hip, like Cody Garbrandt punches, like he
But then why
landed
didn't
like
he?
nine or
But he never dropped him with any of them.
because Salikov, because that's why I'm so high on Salikov right now. Because Salikov's a fucking monster, dog. Like I think both things can be true.
Yeah, no, I just like the approach because you're like, no, that was 10-9, and the reason is because Trinaldo is fucking landing insane bombs, and
He
Salikov's just
was.
such a monster that you can't tell that those are bombs.
Yeah, and
Which is
Salikov was
I
able
mean,
to
that's a fair argument.
and he
I
like
just love it.
tripled up the significant strikes. Like I said, I was shocked because I didn't look at the numbers during the fight. That's probably why I thought it was so close. And then after the fight, I was like, oh man. But it's like, I mean, it's the classic example of straight kind of technical punches. Not that Salikov doesn't have power, but he's a technical striker versus just
Yes.
throwing wang dangus from the hip. But the thing is, those usually don't fucking work. But Trinaldo's were landing crisp, and like, maybe that's a
A
knock on
few of them.
Salikov's
A
deep.
few of them.
But like exactly a few, like more, like
But like,
multiple.
you know what? Maybe Salikov won me over because he does have that weird Muay Thai style where he'll lean back and dodge shots, and I honestly I have a weird affinity for that because it's so cool, like looking, and maybe that was for me was enough on the eye test to be like, oh, he's dominant, like he's just sliding out of the way of these. But he did get cracked, and I think two of the times he got cracked and like started moving around, like, oh, that hurt.
That's what I'm saying, man. And I think it was the timing of those shots too, because it was like every time Salikov would start to like piece him up and back him up and technically start to maybe start to take a little lead on the scorecard. I'm running a basketball game. I keep wanting to say Fiziev. Salikov would get like going like an 8-point run in basketball, but then Trinaldo would land a fucking haymaker.
Just come back with like
a
two big
4-point
threes
play.
in like a
Yeah.
30-second window, just like threes back to back on a steal, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh fuck, is this a game? And it's
Like
another
bad,
6-point run.
threes too, like contested off the dribble threes that like
Yeah,
go
just
in.
like turn around, like jumpers off the backboard. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man, because it's like if you're Trinaldo's coach, that round didn't go great for you. Like I said, just me watching it. But we went on and on about round one. But I think the fact that we can have this debate proves that it was a banger of a round, and it was a lot of fun. And like I said, at the end of the day, I gave it 10-9 Salikov, even though I just like kind of lawyered up for Trinaldo right there. But
I literally wrote 10-9 Salikov, but low-key close to 10-8. So I didn't score it 10-8 if it makes you feel better, but I had like the indications in my mind of like, this could be that.
My feelings feel much better, Harrison. But but man, all right. So round two. Let me see. Did you consider round two a close banger or not? Was that you busted out 10-8s for that one too over there?
Dude, I also wrote that round two was pretty dominant for Salikov,
Get
and
the
I even
fuck
wrote
out of here.
and I even
Get
wrote
the fuck out of here.
This is gonna make it even madder. I wrote Salikov throws hard,
Hey,
and not even Trinaldo.
Though he does like we're about to like copy and paste. I'm about to when I edit this, I'm just gonna copy and paste everything I said for round one and dub it over my voice here because like seriously like I thought it was a close banger. Salikov doubled him up on significant strikes. And but the difference in round two was I thought in round two he wobbled Trinaldo and hurt him a little more. The accumulation.
The shots were starting to actually like stagger Trinaldo.
They were, which is how this fight was essentially gonna play out. But I just respect the way Trinaldo.
You were just on that
man.
Brazilian acai respect game.
Yeah, man. Seriously though, just like as he's an underdog, he's old. Nobody expects him to win this fight. This fight's the whole point is there is to build Salikov.
True. That's facts. That's facts.
Like you're gonna eat these shots and you're gonna feel it tomorrow, and you're not gonna fucking get a highlight reel, and you're not gonna embarrass me, and you're in here with a guy who's been fighting for like 20 years and is a bad motherfucker. And like I said, I once again gave round two 10-9 Salikov. I have it 2018 after two, but I just respected the way
as well. It's weird because our scores are the same, but like I'm so close to having this like 2017, damn near 2016, and you're like, no. It's just like,
man, dude. If you're inflicting damage, you can't get 10-8'd, in my opinion. Like to me, 10-8's just a landslide ass kicking. It wasn't like he was leaking everywhere. It's not like his nose was sideways. He was getting pieced up. He was losing rounds.
He's just
but
tough.
but
He's just tough as shit.
tough as shit, strong as shit, mean as shit, fucking
But you get a
aggressive
bunch of,
as shit.
but if you had Nate Diaz scar tissue and he's bleeding everywhere, does that make it more of a 10-8? Because all those strikes would have just ripped open a man with lesser skin.
Probably, but like I factor that in. That's why we like Burgos so much, right? I mean, you know what I mean? It's a thing. It's a
It's
thing.
true. Yeah, we do
matters.
talk about too, like for his judge's perspective too. Like you're watching it live, so if a dude's not pouring blood and he's not getting rocked by these shots, your perception has to be affected. It can't not be.
The only time I like force myself not to is if it's like if the officials like actually notice the accidental head clash. Like we all acknowledge this was an accidental head clash
Or
or
dude,
something.
legitimately, if it's like Nate Diaz, Shane Burgos, like there's certain guys where I legit know, like, okay, they can eat
They're fine.
irregular punches.
Yeah,
But that doesn't
for
mean
sure,
that
man.
I shouldn't score that punch the same, is my point. Like, just because they're special doesn't mean that guy throwing that punch didn't land an extremely hard strike. It just means the guy that ate that strike has a crazy chin. But I'm not scoring chin.
Yeah, for sure, man. And then round 3, this will confirm it. Am I just full blown on Trinaldo's dick? I gave round 3 to Trinaldo. Am I out of line for that? Like, am I just
No,
completely biased?
I actually gave round 3 to Ronaldo.
Okay, cool. I was
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna invalidate myself if you like.
No,
if you, yeah.
I scored
Okay.
it 29-28 Salikov, but so close to 29-27. And honestly, maybe could justify a 29-26. No, probably not. Probably not that one.
Yeah. I mean, I would clearly disagree, but the judges are more in lockstep with you. Actually, like the judges scored a 30-27 unanimous, all 3 for Salikov, which I get it because in round 3, even though we both like Trinaldo in 3, Salikov ended the round on top, inflicting ground and pound.
And good damage from the ground and pound too.
Yeah, seriously. So I mean, I'm definitely not rolling out any hills. Like I said, I think I clearly made my point of how I felt about. I appreciated Trinaldo's performance. I think he fought well. I think he gave
just
Salikov
that savvy, tough vet, just winning D-Max appreciation in this card.
and because. I'm saying, how many times do we see like the haymaker? And it did fail here, so this is kind of a shitty argument. But like, usually we see haymaker versus straight punch just end in like absolute disaster, or those
For the haymaker, you mean?
For the haymakers, yeah. But like he lost the fight, but he went the distance. He didn't get finished, and a lot of those haymakers landed, man. But yeah, we'll keep it pushing, man. We got our boy Tanner Boser fighting Ilir Latifi. Boser, I was actually shocked to see Boser was a -175 favorite here.
Me too. I'm so glad you say that. Dude.
That was probably the best bet on the card. Like, and I'm not saying that hindsight 2020. Like, I really felt like, and I like Boser's like personality and everything, but I didn't think he was a -175 over Latifi.
Latifi's been a top 15 light heavyweight. He trains with Gustafsson. He trains with fucking Hamzat. Like,
and more importantly, the stylistic matchup is a nightmare for Boser. That's like the recipe to beat Boser.
True.
Yeah. So like Latifi's so like thick and that neck, like Boser's like a knockout guy, but he's like a small heavyweight. Like I didn't necessarily see Boser putting down Latifi with one of those signature Boser knockouts. So dude, yeah, I was if I was gonna bet, I probably would have bet on this fight as far as like liking an underdog.
You know what my biggest knock on Boser is, man, and he's admitted to this in post-fight interviews. He literally takes the first round to try and like study his opponent's game plan to try and go then and implement his own to win the second and third. Hey, it's not boxing, all right? Floyd Mayweather does that because he gets 12 rounds to do it. And he takes 2 or 3 and then wins out 8 or 9.
And like that's what film study's for and like training camp. Like that you work like that's all like that part's already should be done. Now,
speaking of Floyd real fast, does he fight today?
It's a great question. I wanna say yeah.
I think it's Floyd Logan Day,
it's
right?
real soon. It's real soon.
I swear it's on a Sunday. I swear it's today.
Okay, it's probably today. Yeah, they did the weigh-in yesterday, so that would make sense.
Yes,
the weigh-in can't be more than
yes.
They can't do the weigh-in more than 24 hours in advance of the fight. So yeah,
and also fuck that fight. We're not gonna talk about that fight. I just
no.
I just forgot it was today.
I'll talk about Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley. But
yes.
Yeah, Floyd Logan is yeah.
You know what?
Do you get DMs from people like wanting you to like talk more about this bullshit?
Yes, and I'll go this far into it. Floyd Mayweather didn't have a camp for this fight. For all you guys at home that think that he even trained for this, he didn't. And he's going to go out and embarrass this guy, make a shit ton of money. Logan's going to make a shit ton of money, and it's going to be your money you pay him. But why?
Yeah, no, and it's an exhibition. Like, it's anti-competitive. There's nothing on the line. Like once again, I love watching Chael's little YouTube videos, and Chael always asks the question, "Why are we here?" There's a lot of different answers to that question. It can be belts. It can be personal
Grudge
grudges.
matches.
It can be rankings. It can be, the gatekeeper situation. There's a lot of reasons of
Yeah.
why are we here, but there is not an answer to why we are here besides just the answer of money and
Just taking
just
advantage
as
of people that don't know
clout.
fighting.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. So that's why I'm not this one. Even like Jake Paul versus Tyron. Why are we here? Oh, he's friends with Ben Askren. The revenge storyline.
Tyron's a way better
The
boxer. His
by
background
far
is
the
wrestling and boxing.
by far the scariest guy Jake Paul's fought. Former UFC champion.
A step
Uh,
up in competition from his
a step
previous
up
three
in
fights.
competition. They had the locker room beef with the hand wrapping thing before the last fight. Like there's a lot of you can answer the question, why are we doing this?
Right.
For Logan and
That whole fight I'm in on. I'm in on
yeah,
Jake and Tyron. And also, Tyron's been trying to take a boxing fight for 4 years, and Jake wants to be a real boxer. He's signed with Showtime, so like he's going to be a Showtime boxer. Like
yeah.
that's a real story that I'm down to talk about because that's really a boxing match.
And I like how Jake always is lobbying for higher UFC fighter pay. And, and
100%.
honestly, like makes Dana look stupid when he does talk about that one subject. He pretty much owns him there because he's right. But let me grab the steering wheel and get us all the way back on
into the
track.
UFC. Speaking of Dana, back to the
Yeah,
UFC.
man. But we got Tanner Boser, Ilir Latifi. We said we liked the number on Latifi at plus 150, but coming into this, fighting that heavyweight. Man, I thought round one was 10-9 Latifi.
Me too. Nice takedown, 90 seconds in. Good control.
Yeah. I thought it was a close round. It was a hard to score. And but I mean, in a round that's close and hard to score, and one guy has multiple minutes of ground control, top control, I mean, it kind of makes it easy to score, in my opinion.
I agree.
Like it was kind of a snoozer of a round, not a whole lot of damage, but I mean, in a slow round with not a lot of damage, and one guy has another guy down for 3 minutes. I mean, I get it.
Which foreshadowing about snooze, this was not a snoozer, but we did get a snooze fest on the main card on one of these fights, which we'll get to. But
which I'm not shocked. That fighter has given us snoozers in the past. Well, yeah, for sure. I'm not a fan of his. But.
So yeah, like you're talking about Latifi, like implemented the grappling strategy, which Boser weighed at 241. So it's pretty clear, like Latifi, bigger guy, better grappler. Boser wants to be lighter on the feet, wants to keep the distance, control the range, strike.
Known as a striker, yeah.
And literally, like we talked about earlier, we'll lose the first round to try and like implement a game plan to figure out what you're going to do. And so we both score the first 10-9 to Latifi. The transition there being that Boser, I thought, took round two, 10-9.
Yes. I gave round two to Boser 10-9, but we got to talk about this. In your opinion, was there an uncalled eye poke?
Yes.
That's the only reason why Boser won round two.
I had friends texting me about how Herb Dean is literally ruining fights and ruining like I had a buddy bet on Ilir Latifi to win this actually. Andrew Moakley. He bet on Latifi to win this just outright and texted me like after and he was like, dude, Herb Dean is out there trying to like fuck people's bets.
No, it was to Herb's credit, if you rewatch it, the angle Herb is at, but
looks
that's
like a
on
punch.
him to have a good angle. It's on him to be positioned well, but shit happens, fight moves fast. But he was like looking through somebody's back. Like he didn't have the angle that we had at home.
And the poke is off a punch and it's the thumb that pokes
him.
So
it's not a one of these. Yes.
It looks like a punch because it clears because like the thumb clips the eye, but imagine the thumb, it passes the face. So Herb Dean sees the punch come out the back, closed hand.
Yeah. No, it was a tricky one, but I did want to talk about it. Because, like, the only reason why Boser won that round is because he pounced, which I'm not saying Boser's dirty. I'm not saying Boser did what he was supposed to do. That's on
It's the ref's job. It's the ref's job.
Yes.
The fighter's fight.
At the end of the day, when breaking down this fight, the only reason why Boser won that round, in my opinion, was because of the uncalled eye poke. But at the end of the day, it was 19-19 after two.
Yes.
Right?
And that's how I had it scored too, yeah. But then I
And then,
thought in the third, Latifi like came out and probably had his best round of the fight.
yeah, 100%. Latifi, the whole entire round, ground control and ground and pound. He didn't let up once. Bozer did a terrible job of getting up, which I'm pretty sure that's how he lost to Arlovsky, was getting held down. That most of the fight wasn't. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And
Essentially, yeah, and like that's one of the things Arlovsky is so good at doing is outpointing guys that are kind of newer, and he just uses like we there's vet savvy, like vet
oh yeah,
techniques, like shit like that that's in like NFL, NBA that allows like post guys to play for super long, defensive linemen to play for super long because their technique is just on point.
yeah,
And there's like these veteran moves they know how to use, right?
yep.
I mean, that's what we saw with Arlovsky versus Bozer, and that was probably a good learning point for him. But he kind of didn't show that he grew or learned from it in this fight.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was really disappointed because you can lose twice, but like almost like Zalal, he lost a different way. So it's like kind of like, and he lost trying something different. So it's like you kind of give him benefit of the doubt. For Bozer to lose two fights in almost the identical same fashion, it doesn't bode well for like the progression and like the development
And his
of his
potential
skill set
matchups either.
and his potential future in the division. I feel you. Because he's kind of starting to get. He's a striker, right? It's clear to say at this point he's pigeonholed as a striker. He's not a well-rounded mixed martial artist.
Yeah, well,
And
it's like the wing T was sick until people started figuring it out.
yeah, that's a great example. But I do gotta kind of. We've been pretty hard on Bozer. Latifi was pretty boring himself. He didn't really do any damage, just kind of laid on top of him, which is a great way to beat a guy like Bozer. Not too mad at him. So Latifi got the win. It was a split decision. Two judges saw it 29-28 Latifi. One judge gave it 29-27 Bozer, which
Yeah,
he gave
what
Bozer
the
at
hey,
10-8. That's the
bro?
one where I'm like
Yeah,
literally
I
like
was,
what?
yeah. I was
Like
gonna
I
tell you
guess
I had a hill on this card, and it's this one. How the
it is
fuck
though.
did you give a
I'll
10-8 to
tell you
Bozer?
how. I'll
The
tell
the
you
second
how.
round?
The second round, if you literally don't factor in the uncalled eye poke because it was uncalled, so as a judge you're not supposed to factor it in. Bozer, you can make the argument that Bozer almost got the KO finish there, which I mean, I'm not, but I'm saying if I'm playing devil's advocate, if I'm trying to figure out if I need to roll out a hill to die on, I I guess like trying to see it from the other perspective is you could make the argument that Bozer almost got a KO finish in two. Now, do I think that's
Oh,
bullshit? And do I think it's directly related to the uncalled eye poke? Yes, but but I don't know. That's my thoughts. And no hill because the right man won, right? And it
right,
was a split
right,
decision.
right,
The
right.
right man won. But hold on, right before we get to this main card, my dog's scratching at the door. I'm gonna let her in.
Yeah,
Feel
go
free
ahead.
to introduce us. Actually,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
so
take this opportunity to take a pee while I'm up too.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead. I'll go ahead and introduce it and talk about the scrap fight. So Antonio Hoyo and Tom Breese were supposed to fight, and apparently Tom Breese had to pull out due to a medical issue that arose the day of the fight, like literally while they were backstage. Bisping had talked about how Breese has like a history of bad anxiety or something like that. So, I mean, I hope that's not what it was. I hope, well, I don't know what it was. I hope it was something that was just like like a little stomach bug or sickness, like something that's quick and easy to recover from. I'd love to see that get ran back. Tom Breese, super high on him, up and comer. Antonio Hoyo, good challenge. Also, that's the guy that me and Dominic are always talking about. Exemplifies how Brazil and Mexico just do not pronounce shit the same. Because that would be Arroyo at all the other places we've ever been to. But it's Ahoyo with two R's somehow. So, but yeah, on to the main card. We had Montana De La Rosa at minus 280, fighting Ariane, the Queen of Violence Lipsky, at plus 230. Fighting at 125, so another women's flyweight fight here for us. Maybe a potential matchup for Manon Fiorot in the next fight she gets.
Ooh, okay.
You know what I mean?
I didn't think about that.
So yeah, De La Rosa, big favorite. And honestly, I was a little surprised she was as big of a favorite as she was. But
I'm not, bro. Lipsky looked like shit in her last fight. And I feel like the dauber's down on Lipsky. Like, I feel like the only reason this fight was on the main card is because Lipsky's hot. Like, they be doing that shit.
well,
sometimes.
and because Brees and Arroyo got pulled from the right, that's what I was talking about whenever you're gone.
Okay.
But so De La Rosa, I mean, nice takedown halfway through the first round. I scored at 10-9 to her. I thought she was like honestly winning in almost all the facets of the fight. The first round was just at least close. Second round, obviously, it started to get a little more separated.
Yeah, for sure, man. 100% that body lock takedown was dope, and like just Lipsky had no answer, no resistance to it. The ground and pound damage, which is important because a lot of ground and pound's bullshit, but I thought she had impactful ground and pound in round one, and just had the top control, man. Lipsky just has nothing from her back either, just from standing up, from preventing the takedown, from even throwing up submissions from the back. Like I'm pretty down on Lipsky right now, man. Just
Sucks
kind of
because she had
her and Bozer, like their trajectory was just almost like parallel to each other as far as like this podcast go.
I mean, yeah, that's absolutely true. But that's what we were talking about too with the levels in the UFC, man. Like,
Yes,
it's not like
man.
they're not UFC level quality or talent at the bottom. Like, there are
Yeah.
definitely people that can be fighting people that they want to like enter into the UFC. These DWCS people, great matchups for these kinds of people like Bozer and Lipsky, and they probably beat most of those people.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about getting into the top 15, top 20s, these people are not those people, and
Yeah,
that's
man.
just. But like, what's crazy, man, is Bozer in Bellator might be like a top 20 guy over there.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And I think that
Especially
you're
a
talking about
heavyweight.
the depth. Yeah, the depth, and I think the new model because a lot of, and I don't blame a young guy like if you're working just odd jobs and struggling to make it, and your baby mama's paying the bills, like you need that UFC check as soon as possible. But I think the guys that can take the fucking like Prohaska route, maybe go fight in Asia for a couple of years, maybe fight in Brazil for a couple of years, just
Get to the
get
top
that.
of
It's
those
still high
leagues and then
level
come over.
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's that's like Ryzen and shit like that. That's up from like LFA and Cage Warriors and shit like that.
for
Most of these
sure.
guys are
For sure.
so yeah. Go take, or maybe even Bellator, some Bellator fights or whatever. And Bellator, I think even will pay you more money. But I think guys do need to try out these other organizations. Hell, PFL, like just these
Yeah,
other organizations.
I would say those are the five, right? Like Ryzen, One, PFL, Bellator, UFC. Like, those are the five. If you go fight in any of the other four and you can get to the top 10 in those, you can be a UFC person.
Take some grappling matches. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a kickboxing fight. A Muay Thai fight.
Well, and if you're in one, if you want to diversify,
Check
you
all
can
those
get
boxes.
professional. Yeah, I mean, I love the. Hey, side
I
note,
miss it, man. They need
the
to
One
put that
FC
shit back.
yeah, the One FC model's so nice,
It's dope.
so
It's dope,
nice,
man. But
and they pay their fighters.
they do, man. And then we'll get back to this Lipsky De La Rosa fight, man. Round two comes out, just picks up where she left off, gets the round two ground and pound TKO. There was a
Just
lot of damage, a lot
relentless,
of blood. She was well on her
relentless.
way to a 10-8 round. This got
Oh
stopped at 4
yeah.
minutes, 27 seconds into the second. I said, man, I'm pretty down on Lipsky. I'm more down on Lipsky than I am on Bozer, because at least Bozer can knock people out. Like Lipsky, like it's just starting to seem like if you have any kind of grappling at all, like Lipsky's just an easy W for you. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think you're wrong, man. To be quite honest with you, like.
You know what I mean? She has a great Instagram account, and she's marketable, and she trains with all the good fighters. I think she trains at American Top Team. Like she's always taking pictures of all the high level fighters. Like she has skills. Like she's down to like mix it up. She's a fairly active fighter. Like I'm not trying to shit on her too hard, but the holes in her game are just becoming so glaringly obvious that it's hard to get like excited about her future. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, I agree. But as I was alluding to earlier, what do you think about Montana De La Rosa fighting Manon Fiorot?
I think it makes a lot of sense. Man, I mean, you could argue that De La Rosa's victory was more dominant, and she was favored by less.
I would agree, and maybe against a better opponent.
But then there's like the physical, athletic side of it, like the X's and O's fighting argument is what we just made. But then like just the physical specimen and athletic freak and the power of Fiorot and the size.
I think if you're not going to give Fiorot a top 15, give her De La Rosa, because they both won and didn't take hardly any damage at all.
Yeah.
Fought the same night, so you can get them booked pretty much the same time. If they'll both sign, then they both have the exact same amount of time to do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah,
And
no,
honestly, it's kind of a
I'm on
fight to
board.
earn one of them a shot to get a top 11 to 15 opponent to get their way back in.
That's a fun fight, man. That's a fun fight. That's like a main card fight, in my opinion.
Honestly,
Like sometimes there'll be like a random fight on the
or
main
like a
card, like
prelim
in
main event.
casuals. Yeah, like why is this fight on there? But like that's a fight that I wouldn't mind seeing on the main card. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Oh man, speaking of dauber down guys that we used to be pretty high on.
Todorovic.
What a transition. Dusko Todorovic, minus 135 favorite, fighting Gregory Rodriguez, plus 115 underdog, making his debut. LFA champ, middleweight, fighting at middleweight, and yeah, man. And also, I gotta say, Bisping commented it on too. I'm so glad he said this. They said Rodriguez was 30 years old. And that guy's definitely 44 years old and has a fake birth certificate. Like those Cuban baseball
37.
players that are like
100% he's
23
37.
with like fucking forehead wrinkles and shit. Like, yeah,
dude,
no,
they
that
said
guy,
he's 30.
They said he's 30. I think they said he was the same age as Todorovic. Like that's like that. What's that? The bench warmers when they had the Cuban pitcher who's like, I'm
Yeah,
12.
bro. Yeah, I'm 12. It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. He's 30.
Yeah, like them AAU tournament kids.
He's literally drinking a beer with like chains on his shit.
No, seriously. Yeah, no, Gregory Rodriguez is the furthest thing from 30 years old. But that being said, man, he looks fucking amazing. And clearly a guy that is seasoned. He's a seasoned veteran, dog. Like, like he did what we're talking about. Like, he cut his teeth in these other organizations and was ready when he showed up. Because, I mean,
they said he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach as well. I was
yeah.
now that you're telling me he's 30, like I just was taking all this information. I was like, oh, okay, fought in organizations, jiu-jitsu coach. He's like 37.
This guy's on a second mortgage, man.
Yeah. I'm like, hell yeah. He's getting like a nice little retirement run before he gets out. No.
Yeah,
this is the middle of his life. This is the middle of his career.
Yeah, he's in his athletic prime, man. He's just like his body looks it though. It's just like honestly, from like eyebrows down, that guy's 30. That guy's 25 from eyebrows down. He has the forehead of like a 75-year-old like construction worker. Like, like I don't know what's going on with that forehead.
Oh
like,
my god!
He needs to like get that Botox sponsorship. But man,
something.
But honestly, looked fantastic. Like all jokes, these are all just jokes. Like fuck how his forehead looks. He looked in the octagon, looked amazing. But yeah, fighting at middleweight, and like I said, we were high on Todorovic coming in. I honestly, this is actually a fight that I liked. Like I said, I didn't like any of them too much, or I would have bet. But as far as bets go, I did like Todorovic in this one, and I thought that getting him at minus 135, like I said, hindsight doesn't look good now, but I thought that was a good number to get him at against the guy making a debut.
I don't disagree because I didn't know enough about Rodriguez.
Exactly.
Other than he was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach. And I was like, well, that's not going to be enough to beat Todorovic. I thought this was like a test for like Todorovic to like get a guy that wasn't good at striking. And then this guy comes out and is out striking him. And I was like, well, what the fuck is this? He's shooting takedowns from 8 feet out that are beautiful shots with like hard, like entry, like he looked like a legit wrestler on his shot entry. I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
And those kicks and
dude,
and the punch.
He landed a body kick that was like serious on Todorovic.
Like you said, he had the takedowns, they had the striking. He's a jiu-jitsu coach, so you know he has that. He didn't even really have to have it in display, but he has it in the back pocket. But man, just impressive, well-rounded, such a good debut. But yeah, man, I mean, I had rounds 1 to Rodriguez. I mean, he was landing so hard, so clean. And
me too.
It was
better
really
grappling.
Weird.
We got more control off the takedown in the start.
Bisping kept talking about how Todorovic is taking his shots and like his facial expressions not changing. I disagreed. I could see it on Todorovic's face that he did not like those shots at all. Like
he could take them, but he didn't like them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought it was weird. Bisping kind of went on and on about like how like well Dusko was wearing these shots, and I was like,
Bisping gets like punch drunk, and when I mean that, I don't mean that he is punch drunk. I mean that like he gets drunk off punches. Like he loves seeing people get like punched. Like he does not like grappling. Like he openly talks about. He's like, oh, I want to see strikers learn to defend takedowns so I can see him strike. He's like, striking wins fights.
Dominic Cruz to kind of counter that, though. Like, I've been pretty harsh on Dominic Cruz's commentary in the past. I think he was there to kind of, like, he did a great job of kind of real Bisping in, because like sometimes I accuse him of being kind of like a fuddy-duddy, like no fun, like a what are they, like a buzzkill, but like
With
but yeah,
Bisping, he
Bisping
can't do
kind of
that because Bisping's such a goober.
yeah, for sure, it kind of works for sure. But yeah, and then round two, Rodriguez, not only did he land hard and clean, he had that amazing takedown. Wasn't that super explosive double leg that was like a fucking
Yes.
like a free safety tackle and a tight end? Like
Yes.
it was badass. It was an explosive
And
takedown.
that's what I'm talking about. Exactly that's the exact shot I was talking about from like 7 or 6 feet out, where it was just like he just like shot and it was like a shark in
Exploded.
the water. Like
Yeah,
it was
yeah. Looked
it
like
was tight.
it was really, and like I said, after winning the first round purely striking, winning the second round, one of the best takedowns of the whole night, and then being a BJJ coach, having that in your back pocket. I mean, just super impressive, super well rounded. Now I did think Todorovic won round three. I thought it was his best round. He was landing hard. He was accurate. He finally got that timing down in round three. I thought in the whole first 2 rounds he could not get that timing down. Because Todorovic, he's like a straight punch kind of technical striker typically, which, does require good timing. And I don't know. I thought he was just able to find the mark and just improve the accuracy. And I thought he looked much better in three. Did you give him three, or did you give three to Rodriguez?
I gave 3 to Rodriguez, but I wrote that it was super close and I could literally go either way on it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not mad at that at all. 2 judges saw it the way you saw it. 1 judge saw it the way I saw it. Means we're pretty on point with our analysis. Rodriguez wins as a plus 115 underdog at his debut, and like I said, I'm high on him. I'm not high on the forehead, but I'm high on his fight skills. Dude,
he was impressive, and now knowing he's 30, I'm way higher on him.
Yeah, man. And then Todorovic, I mean, that's 2 losses in a row. I mean, he lost to Soriano and he lost to Rodriguez. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, those are 2 hard fights, but those are also 2 unranked fighters. So it's not going to, you know what I mean? If you can't get past that level of fighter, it's like kind of the theme for this whole episode of like these hot prospects started hot, looked great against like lower competition,
cooling off against the real vets,
against that middle depth, that middle range depth. That we talk about. That's kind of what separates the UFC from, because these other organizations, they have great top end talent, they have great young prospects, but that middle depth is what really separates.
Right, their prospects' ascension to the top in other organizations is way faster. The ladder is long in the UFC.
So long, yeah, for sure. And it's cool because it's like a vetting process, right? Like by the time somebody's top 5, like it's
their
really
skills are
hard
legit.
Like that's not a fluke. Like you don't get there by accident. Now, the only way people, like there are people that hang around the top 5 or top 10 maybe too long. You can make that argument.
Yes,
like
but to get there, keeping it's hard. Getting there is different.
For sure, 100%. So yeah, man. I said, man, started off hot on Todorovic. I said he ran into a really good fighter in Rodriguez, and I do like how Todorovic ended the fight well in round 3. Something to build on there. And I'm not saying he's done. Hopefully, he gets another one. But yeah, man, he's gonna have to find a way to deal with that better competition.
Well,
for sure.
And here's the thing too: is that's 2 L's in a row for him. He's 10-2 now.
Yeah,
he's the guy we talked about in his pre-fight interviews. Was talking about how the O is more important to him than anything else. And he's that guy.
Once that O went, it's a slippery slope.
And we see that in other sports too. You see teams that get on a win streak, take a bad L, and all of a sudden their season is done.
Oh, I mean, it's happened to me in football. You come out, you win the first 4 or 5 games. It's like, oh, man, start sizing the state rings now, man. And then, you get that meat of your schedule. And it's, you take a couple L's, take 1 L, turns into 2, turns into 3. And you have a mediocre season for sure.
It's literally where champions are made. It's like OU's 2000 season. Like they call it a Red October because they beat 3 top 12 opponents in 4 weeks.
Nice OU factoid. I'm here for it. Boomer Sooner, baby. All right, yeah, we'll keep it pushing because this next fight was amazing. And the cool thing about this fight, everybody knew it was going to be amazing. Or if you didn't, that's actually like the casual test. Like that's like the official casual test. Like if you weren't stoked for Ponzinibbio Baeza, you gotta get that casual label. Because anybody that knows UFC, like for real, like I'll be real. I thought I was like going to be ahead of the curve, like, oh, this fight's dope. But no, everybody was talking about this fight. This fight was just a dope booking. Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby, whoever booked this one, knocked it out of the park. Great matchup. And then sometimes with the great paper matchups, it's such a high bar to clear. It sometimes falls short. Sometimes it's anticlimactic. Not last night.
And it's a great, I mean, it's perfect to describe exactly what we're talking about. This is a top middle tier. This isn't top 15 guys. They're very close. They're top 25 for sure.
Yes.
Top 20 probably on Ponzinibbio's side. But
When Ponzinibbio's been top 10 in the past, and
correct.
Baez is an undefeated, probably one of the hottest prospects in the UFC coming into it. And,
So,
and
like,
for good reason, too. Like, I want to emphasize, too, the Baeza hype was real. I was on board with it. Like, it was earned. It wasn't really, like, bullshit Twitter
no, I
hype.
mean,
I mean, the
the
skills are,
minus 140 favorite, I feel like was justified.
yeah, the skills on point. And he's just such a athlete, such a specimen, tall, long, young, just, yeah, for sure.
Good skill set too, like well
Good
rounded.
skill set, well rounded, yes. And then Ponzinibbio, had that long layoff due to injuries, but before that, has reached up to top 10 status before in his career. Dangerous fighter. I think he lost to Soriano recently too. So him and Todorovic are part of that Eskimo brother club. But but yeah, so yeah, they're fighting Ponzinibbio plus 120 underdog, Baeza minus 140 favorite. The Baeza was undefeated coming into this one. Everybody, if you didn't have this one circled, you're lame. Fighting at welterweight, and man, round one, Baeza, did he just not look like perfect? Like literally, like
his
a
strategy
fucking robot.
his strategy was excellent, bro. The leg kicks to like stunt Ponzinibbio's aggression because Ponzinibbio is a super super heavy like. He wants to lead the
Power
action.
puncher.
He wants to aggress into you. He wants to come forward. He is not good off his back foot. So the leg kicks were doing great to establish distance, keep him kind of further away.
So many leg kicks.
And they were
landing.
eating. They were eating.
They
but
were
then
causing damage.
and that's for the first 4 minutes. Then in the last minute or so, Ponzinibbio kind of started to get the timing down, was able to start putting a check down on the kicks,
and coming down with the jab sometimes as well.
Right. Because he's had the timing of the kick down, he was able to start like putting like some of them were like half checks because he was planting the foot to actually throw a jab as well. So he finished the round really strong, but I still gave it to Baeza in round 1, 10-9.
Me too. Couldn't agree more. The low kicks, the range management, and then Ponzinibbio started to figure it out. But yeah, man, the first 4 minutes could not have gone any better for Baeza if he scripted it out himself. Now, round 2, this whole fight was the exact story, the tale of two halves, as they say, because it was like essentially the halfway in round 2 mark, which is the halfway mark of the fight as well in a 3-round fight. Ponzinibbio, like there's just this massive momentum swing where Ponzinibbio figures it out because the start of round 2 started kind of like the start of round 1, just leg kicks, Baeza long, rangy strikes, managing the distance, managing the timing. Then there's just like essentially the exact halfway moment of round 2, which once I said again, the exact halfway point of the whole fight. Ponzinibbio just figured it out, flipped the switch, whatever, how you want to describe it. But it was the tale of two halves. Ponzinibbio figured it out. And then I had him stealing round 2 because he finished the second half of round 2 with just so much strike volume, just started to kind of pour it on a little bit, started just to overwhelm and kind of learn that. I think the first round and a half, Ponzinibbio was kind of looking for that perfect counter. But then what the flip that was switched was like the volume switch. He just started just pouring it on and just he wasn't landing with the first punch, but that second, third, fourth of the combination would start to connect pretty hard on the Baeza. I had Ponzinibbio 10-9 round 2. How about you?
Me too, man. And like exactly like you're saying, like it was a perfect breakdown of the round because Baeza came out and probably won the first 90 seconds to 2 minutes, like pretty definitively. And then Ponzinibbio started to be able to come forward. He became the aggressor again, which is like where he's way stronger. Like that's where he wants to be, is coming forward, attacking, leading the action, keeping his opponent on their back foot.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so once he started to implement his game plan, I thought it was enough where he started landing like good shots and did enough to essentially, like you said, steal the round, but also try to just win it out, right? But also it's a steal because he gets it at the end. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, great points, man. And then, man, so after round 2, I thought it was going to be a really interesting kind of like psychological moment for Baeza as a young, undefeated fighter who's probably never been in this deep of water before. And he I actually liked the way he responded because I thought after round two, you know, it was kind of nut check time, right? Like he was either going to kind of wilt under the pressure of Ponzinibbio and not react well to things not going well, or you know he could kind of dig his heels in the sand and kind of tweak his game plan and kind of be willing to stand and bang more.
Yeah, right.
And I
That's
thought he
yeah,
did
playing
that.
his heels in the sand and like stand up and try and go back at him. No, and I agree, he did that. He definitely did that because these guys were just like swinging literally to
It
the
was a
end of
banger.
the round. It was a,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the fans were limited fans were literally on their fight or on their feet yelling at the end of the fight.
Like video game round, like just
Oh,
trading.
it was great.
Now, all
Now,
that being said, I think we're yeah.
all that being said, Baeza did what he could, but Ponzinibbio was the better striker when it came to a forward versus forward striking matchup.
And doubled the significant strike numbers in the third round. As much of a banger as it
Which
was,
also it was like 70 strikes
yeah,
in that third
it
round.
was a banger, man. It was a barn burner. And it was just like the old school kind of caveman way of looking at it. Like Ponzinibbio hurt Baeza more / worse than Baeza hurt Ponzinibbio. Like that's
Yeah.
just kind of undeniable, just even taking the numbers out of it. But so I think we both are in lockstep there, 10-9 Ponzinibbio, but super entertaining. We both liked the way Baeza kind of responded and tweaked his game plan and stopped like point fighting and kind of, you know, got in there and got nasty with it. I like that. I like seeing that he had that in him. I really did. It was kind of a make or break moment. He was either going to go left or right there. I think he went right.
I'm glad both guys got the fight of the night bonus too. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because
Yeah.
it was such a good fight that it would suck for Baeza to like not get a little more money for that because it was like they went literally toe to toe. Like they didn't even have to point at the center of the octagon. Like just agreed pretty much in
Yeah.
principle in the moment. Like, all right, we're just swinging to see who can win this round because they both realized like I think Baeza knew like all right, round two probably his. Like it's up in the air. Round one mine. Like I got to go for it. Ponzinibbio absolutely realized the same thing,
Yep.
and it was just like fight of the. I mean, it's fight of the
Fight
night
of the
for a
night.
reason, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We may be talking about this for Fight of the Year on
Yeah,
the Prime
it's up
Cuts
there.
in a couple months. You know, you never know about what has in store, but man, it's up there. It's a fantastic fight. So entertaining. Yeah, Ponzinibbio gets the win, cashes as the plus 120 underdog. And it was a kind of a cool, as far as results go, kind of good for both fighters because Ponzinibbio's back, right? Like he's
Right.
back. Like he can officially kind of the career's back on track. Like he's can keep the ascension going. And then Baeza, man, he did lose. It's his first loss ever. And he proved that he can like get in them grown man fights. Like he's not some
Right.
punk kid prospect. Like he can hang.
He'll
He's
stand
tough.
and
Like
he'll stand and bang with the top tier guys.
and can out technical the lesser skilled guys. You know,
Right.
so I think Baez is just fine. Like I'm not dauber down on Baez. I actually think he may learn a lot from this, and he went into deep waters. You know, with a veteran. You know, I'm not dauber down on Baez. Like he got the L. Like I said, it's the first L on his record. Not mad at it. Yeah, Ponzinibbio, good on you. Both fighters, yeah, got the 50K, and we'll keep it pushing.
So, yeah, the next fight we have the featured fight of the night, which is Roman Dolidze at minus 150 versus Laureano Staropoli at plus 125. They're fighting at 185, which is important to note because Staropoli is coming up from welterweight, and Dolidze D-Mac's already getting on with the breakdown of this fight, which was him being asleep because Dolidze is coming down from 205, and literally. I think they spent 12 minutes in the same position. They threw 4 strikes in the first round.
Wow, I didn't know the
sucked.
numbers were that bad. Yeah, it was bad. It was horrible. Which Delezian, I forget the exact fight it was, but he's given us a snoozer in the past. This is not the first time we've called Delezian
He's
out
down
for
to
having a
grapple.
boring
He's
style.
down to grapple fuck to win.
But man, you can even do that entertaining, like
Oh no, but
Chase Hooker.
I'm
Like,
saying he's just down to do it in the least entertaining fashion possible.
it's trash, man. I hate watching it, and I don't hate grappling. Like I will watch a grappling fest. Like there are grapplers. There's a lot of fighters I love watching their grappling, and it just the leads is not one of them. And yeah, so and it's a weird thing. So yeah, he's a former light heavyweight, and they had matched him up with a former welterweight. Star Poli was moving up from welterweight. So there's this obvious size advantage to the guy that loves to just lay on people. And yeah, Delije minus 150 favorite, plus 125 for Star Poli. Yeah, Star Poli is definitely the better striker, but
Yeah.
just kind of didn't matter. Like you said, just Delije was just not even laying on him. He could like most of the fight took place up against the cage, but from like a standing back position, not like it was just weak. Like I said, it wasn't even like if it was on the ground, like if he was in mount or if he was in half guard or if he was in side control, like would have been way less of a snooze. But this standing back position was just nothing was happening.
Snooze City. It was,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
So what?
Delete wins 30-27, and that's how I scored it as well.
Yes.
Is that how you scored it?
Yeah. Unfortunately, like
I don't even know if we should even give any shine to this fight, man.
No. I'm more curious. I literally, and I'm not even saying this tongue in cheek. Like I literally would rather beg down the argument between Dominic Cruz and Bisping about how Dominic or Bisping kept saying, "Break him up, stand him up, break him up," and then Cruz was like, "No, I mean that's a dominant position. He has his back. They're like you can't break him up there." But I thought, and I thought it was weird.
You're right.
Because,
It was weird.
but then the opposite of what I thought was going to happen happened. So then they did it again for round 2 snooze fest, and I thought Cruz was going to come around and be like, "Yeah, this is lame. They should stand him up." But it was what Bisping kind of flipped the script and was like, "No, I see why they are leaving him here." And it's like, "Oh, you do? I don't." Like
It's like really because no one's doing any damage. This is a fight. Like I don't understand. Like
it was lame. It was lame,
was,
and like we don't say that often, man. We
yeah.
appreciate the nuances of the fight game, like not this time around, man.
It was just not an entertaining fight. You know what I mean?
Man, and it's cool because I think the Delije problem is going to take care of itself because against like a good middleweight, I just don't like he's just not good enough. Like the skill set,
Right.
I think it's going to take care of itself. He's gonna keep beating these debut guys and these guys moving up weight classes and these prelim guys, which I thought is why the fuck is he on the main card anyway? But yeah, I think the problem is going to take care of itself. For some reason, they like to market him, but I think they're going to cool on all that, and I don't know. But let's get to this next fight because this next fight, as short as it was fucking awesome. I love this next fight.
Yeah. The last 2 fights are great, even though they weren't long.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a co-main event. We have heavyweights. We have number 8 Walt Harris at plus 160 versus number 11 Marcin Tybura at minus 190.
Yeah.
Honestly, man, Harris landed some massive shots early and like had Tybura in all kinds of a bad position, and then Tybura was able to get a nasty takedown, and I mean, really just dominated position from there. I was really surprised. Like Walt Harris had him in trouble in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy. This whole fight lasted 4 minutes and 6 seconds, but so much happened in that 4 minutes and 6 seconds. Once again, it was the tale of 2 halves. They were just very short halves.
Yeah,
first half,
good point.
Walt Harris beat the dog shit out of Tybura. I mean, like just whooped his fucking ass. And this is what I think happened to Walt Harris, and not that he was listening to the commentary, but it's almost like the commentary matched what has gone in his head and gone on in his career. So Walt Harris is super notorious for like blowing his load, landing some heavy shots in round 1, and then either getting outlasted or getting outgrappled the remainder of the fight. That's like the story of recent 100%. Walt Harris fights and the game plan, the path to victory against Walt Harris. And so he was having immense success. He had Tybura in a world of hurt. And I think instead of going for the kill, Bisping was calling for it, and I think there was a voice in the back of his head calling for it, like, don't shoot your load, don't go for the kill, don't, blow your whole gas tank. And I think in this instance, I think he should have I think he should have pressed on the gas tank more and said, fuck it. I think he tried to hold back a little bit, and I think that's what cost him.
Yeah, I think you're totally right about that. Because honestly, like, if he had just tried to, like, dude, Tybura was hurt at one point. Like, if he had just gone, like, full load and landed 1 or 2 more shots, I think he would have put him out.
Me too, man. And I think either his coaches or that little voice in the back of his head, or maybe he overheard Bisping, but I just think he was just like, yeah, good point. Do the smart veteran move and kind of don't shoot your load. But I think in this actual instance, I think he would have been better off shooting his load, man. I really do. Um,
I agree. I
yeah,
agree
no,
entirely.
and but yeah. So that being said, Tarbura weathers the storm, gets the takedown, and gets the finish, and spends the second half of the round or the second half of the 4 minutes on top. Just nothing too crucial, but just Walt Harris he ended up flattening him out, had him face down, flattened out, and just beat him up until the ref pulled him off of him.
Yeah, but did you think any of those shots were landing in the back of the head?
Nothing too crazy. I'll allow it. I'll allow it. I thought it was up and down.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't think it was
I
anything
kind of
too.
thought some of those shots might have been on the back of the head, but
And I think if they were, it was due to Walt Harris not intelligently defending. He
that's
accepted
fair.
that.
That's
He
fair.
accepted that flattened out position. Like that was the prime example of what Chael Sonnen talks about. Is he was ready to get out of there. Like
Yeah, like you're
he
done.
found a way out of there. Yeah. So yeah. I said wasn't a whole lot to break down, but super entertaining fight. Tybura gets the performance of the night, 50 G's. And I mean, I imagine he probably takes Walt Harris's spot at 8. This was a cool fight for the heavyweight division as far as moving it forward. I think a lot of people felt Walt Harris was probably ranked a little too high and was kind of
Yeah, I
hanging on
felt
to
that
that
way for
top 10,
sure.
clogging up the top 10. So get Tybura in there. I mean, Tybura, the thing about Tybura's fights is like they never really go perfectly, right? He always has a moment in there where it's like kind of in question. But I think that could be spun as a weakness or a strength because he can definitely weather a storm, but he also sometimes can be a slow starter or maybe not implement his game plan as effectively as he wants to. He'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on too, like matchup wise too, because like his wrestling is really good. His striking's not great, but he does have power. Like, I mean, he's a heavyweight. I mean, he could be a tough matchup for certain guys, but I could also see him losing depending on the top 10 heavyweights. It's an interesting guy to kind of predict moving forward. He got his first co-main slot, so I mean that's good for his career. He got a performance of the night bonus in a co-main slot, so I mean that definitely is good as far as trajectory goes, and he'll crack the top 10, I'm sure. So yeah, looking good for him. But when I envision him fighting those top end guys, or even a guy like Cyril Gane, it's hard for me to just like see him just dominate. How do you feel about that?
I don't know, man. Well, as far as like Walt Harris is concerned, like he's definitely not on that level. But
He
then I
didn't
think
look.
about,
His body didn't look great either.
but then I think about Tybura even, and like, is he on that level? Like, is the heavyweight division starting to get like a clear cut line between like top end and like this next level right below?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been there. I mean, even the fact that Walt Harris was at 8. Hold on, I'll look it up right now.
Because I feel like it's 6 and up. That's like it's like a defining line in the heavyweights.
100%. You know what? The jump from 6 to 7. Before last night, Rozenstruik was 6, and Shamil Abdurakhimov is 7. And then Walt Harris was 8. Sakai was 9. Chris Dawkins 10. Tybura 11. Dawkins Tybura might be fun. That's an interesting clash of
Yeah, that's
styles.
fun.
Very,
That's fun.
very different. But yeah, I feel like there's a clear lineup from 6 and up, 100%. Then you got Volkov at 5, Blades at 4, Gane is all the way up at 3. I didn't realize he was that high.
Yeah, you got a big
Um,
jump.
he did, which he looked great in that. So, but yeah, next we got the main event of the evening. It is Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Biggie Boy,
Biggie boy
minus
is a fun nickname.
125 favorite, 6th ranked heavyweight, as we just said, coming into this one. Augusto Sakai plus 105. So Vegas had this razor thin, pretty much a coin flip. 9th ranked heavyweight coming into this one. And this was, I mean, great opportunity for Sakai. They were both coming off losses, though. Sakai actually coming off of a loss to Overeem, and then Jairzinho coming off the loss to Gagne, where he
Right.
did not look good at all.
Right.
And so yeah, the matchmakers put loss and loss together. Like I said, it made sense as far as the division goes. There's obviously fighting at heavyweight, and at first I was worried that we were going to get Gane Rozenstruik again because because Rozenstruik was the first 3 minutes of the fight was pretty much didn't do shit, and I was like, God, here we go again.
He was just chilling, just waiting, just waiting. Now, granted, that is kind of his style. Is like that he sits back and sits back and sits back and tries to lull you into this like sense of like, all right, we're chill, and then he explodes with like these like crazy combo attacks, and like tries to like get you up against the fence where you can't move
Pretty much what
because
ended up happening. I mean, honestly, you're like describing like.
I mean, yeah, that's his game plan. That's just how he fights.
Yeah, no, and it worked great here. And I thought Sakai didn't do himself any favors with like kind of playing into that game plan.
And it was a bad matchup as far as the fact that Sakai likes to retreat to the fence to defend and then slide off the sides. Well, it's like, well, okay, Rozenstruik loves when people do that.
That's great analysis. That's good stuff right there. I did like I said though, like you gotta. That all sounds like, oh, obvious, go bet the house on Rozenstruik. But if you don't factor in how bad Rozenstruik looked in his last fight, and you know what I'm saying?
Looked low activity, didn't really like seem like intense in his last fight.
And it's just like didn't seem like a guy you want to go put money on, right?
Right.
Regardless of opponent, especially whenever Vegas was telling you how close it was. So yeah, this is the classic example of a hindsight 2020. It's easier to be like, oh yeah, clearly it was Rozenstruik all along, but not really.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. And heavyweights, like we talked about early on in the podcast, always that chance that one shot can put the fight out.
Yeah, man. And so speaking of, this fight lasted 4 minutes and 59 seconds. There's pretty much not much happened until a whole lot happened. The very end of the round, you know, they hit the 10 seconds to get the wood blocks clapping together.
Yeah, the clap.
And God damn it, my dog thought somebody knocked on the door. And then and then Rozenstruik, and he even admitted this after the fight, like he heard the 10 seconds and was like, oh, well, I might as well step on the gas. And he
just started throwing them out.
Bombs, and Sakai got up against the fence. And I got to say, man, those strikes did not land flush, like in the slightest. They were like glancing blows. Like,
yeah, it was like a little like left hand check hook and then a big like right straight or right cross that just like clipped him on the ear and like
it didn't even
put him
look
out.
like landed as much as they kind of like slid by the face, you know?
Yeah. No,
And
the hook like tapped him. Like the hook like was like almost out of range, you know what I mean? So it just like barely connected. And then the right hand was like just like I think it was off the back of the head and just like hit him in the right spot. It was like a glancing blow, but like the force hit like the right spot.
It just shows how powerful Rozenstruik is, because there's a lot of guys in the UFC, even at smaller weight classes, where if they hit you right on the jaw, you're going to sleep. But
right. But strikes like that, those guys can do strikes like that all night.
Punch, man.
No,
like, I mean it was, but it like I was kind of shocked, especially after just seeing all those shots that Tybura ate and weathered the storm. Like those, a shot like that dropping somebody, I wouldn't think twice about. But like those were like essentially like, it'd be crazy if this would have gone the distance. Like, would those have even counted as significant strikes? like they barely.
I mean,
like,
it's a good question,
like,
right?
They barely touched him. But it was still enough to put him down.
And even more so still, like you got to think about the fact too, like we're talking about this clear defined line between like 6 and up, and that's part of it too, is the fact that all those guys at 6 and up have like legit knockout power when they need it, or the ability to avoid getting knocked out against the lesser opponents.
Like literally the least scary guy in the top 6 is probably Cyril Gane, or no, maybe Curtis Blades. But even then, Curtis Blades has the best probably wrestling in the division, and then Gane is probably the best athlete in the division with probably the best footwork. So it's like you still, just because it's not that doesn't mean it's not something else. Yeah, but definitely a top heavy division, 100%. There is a clear line, 100%. But yeah, Rozenstruik gets the performance of the night. He gets the knockout victory. Any kind of reservation at all about the fight being stopped at 4 minutes and 59 seconds? Like Sakai was not out cold, even though he took some heavy ground and pound, and he was. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about that? I mean,
I didn't love the stoppage. I feel like it's a 5-round main event. Like, let it just run. And if he gets finished, or if he gets rocked, oh, you're good. If he gets rocked in the second round again and finished, like, okay, all good. Like, at least he went out, like, admirably. Like, you didn't even give him the chance, Herb Dean. Like, literally 1 second, like, you're telling me that he couldn't have survived there for one more second?
So exactly right. Let me give you this scenario. I want to hear your answer. So Herb Dean doesn't call it. He probably eats one more of those hammer fists. Do you think he gets up, goes to his corner, and comes back out for round two?
Yeah, of course.
I do. I do. Which my mind makes for an early stoppage. And I'm not saying that to take anything away from Rozenstruik. I think that if he does come back out, he finishes him in round two. So it's kind of inconsequential, and it's not a hill to die on. And it was Herb Dean, though, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's another thing. It's like, it probably, if it's Mark Smith, I'd probably give him the benefit of the doubt. But when it's like early stoppage McGee,
Yeah, right. It's like a guy
fine, that's
that's all he
questionably.
does now.
It's like yeah, man. I feel. I think Sakai is able to come back out for round two. Now, do I think he wins the fight, or do I think that
No, I
Rozenstruik
mean,
probably finishes him in two?
no, but
Sure, but
maybe.
that's not Herb Dean's job to legislate. That's the competitors, the fighters' job to work out between themselves in an athletic arena. You know,
Right.
that's not for conjecture or what Herb Dean thinks is going to happen. You know what I mean? That's not what a knockout is.
And I don't feel like he was saving the fighter from unnecessary damage.
No, but the clock was going to save him from unnecessary
Right.
damage.
So that's my point, though, is like, why is it a TKO? Because you're saving him from damage that would eventually put him to a knockout. It's a technical knockout. He couldn't have been actually knocked out, I don't think, in the last 1 second that was remaining.
There's no way to tell if one, because I do think Rozenstruik probably would have landed one more hammer fist, but I
But
think,
would it have knocked out Sakai,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think so, especially if you mean like knockout cold, like, yeah,
Like,
no, for
can't go
sure.
to
And
his
I think
corner at the end of the round,
it,
Like,
and another thing that I feel like gives our kind of argument credence is that Sakai wasn't happy with the stoppage. So it's not like we're like asking a guy to do something that he doesn't want to do. It's not like Sakai was ready to get out of there.
right,
And
right.
Sakai thought it was like Sakai was down to keep fighting. So I think he was kind of robbed of that opportunity to. I mean, in a sense, especially in a heavyweight fight, you never know. What if he comes out and fucking the first punch of round two is Sakai catching Rozenstruik on the chin? You know what I'm saying? And like, I wasn't a fan of that. Now, do I think it was a robbery? No. Am I fine with Rozenstruik winning that fight? Yes. Do I think Sakai's a better fighter than Rozenstruik? No, I don't. So it's like I said, not dying on any hill, but I did want to bring it up, ask your opinion, and spend some time talking about it.
Oh, yeah. And now, as far as like how the division goes moving forward,
I think
do you
there's only
think?
one. I think there's only one fight to match up. I don't know. I kind of stole this from an Ariel Helwani tweet. Ariel was saying Curtis Blades is the obvious and pretty
Yeah,
much the
Blades
only fight to
Rozenstruik. That's
make.
what I was going to say too. It's the only fight you can
Yeah,
make because everyone
it's
else
the
is pretty
only
much
fight to
booked up.
make.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
okay. So all right. We really need to dive into that because it's
No,
like
no, no. I'm on board. As soon as I said that, I was like, "Yep, do it. Makes sense." Now, does that sound like a fun fight? No. And do
no,
I really, really hope they're not going to make it a fight night main event? They're
dude.
100% going to make it a fight night
No,
main
if they can
event.
just hide that as like a
A
featured
featured battle on a
fucking
pay-per-view.
yes, right. Like like two
Fine.
belts and then give them the fight before the belts go up. Fine with that.
Fine with it. But
3 rounds.
nope,
I don't
it's
want
going
them
to
in
be a
five.
fight night main event. It's going. It's
Oh,
going to. So just brace yourself. You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. But now and then, like, it's real interesting. So I guess Ngannou Lewis is happening,
yeah.
and Stipe is saying that he wants to get back in there. You got the young gun Gane waiting in the wings. I guess Gane probably gets the winner. No, but Gane's already fought Rozenstruik. I
I
guess if
would love.
Blades beats Rozenstruik, Gane Blades would
I'd
make
love to see
sense after that.
Gane Stipe.
Yeah, I think Stipe's gonna he's in the Colby Covington chair. I really do. I
Well,
think
fuck Stipe.
Stipe
He's old. We're not. We're done with him, man. I'm done with him holding up the division.
he is doing that. And especially Derek Lewis is so down to fight. Stipe is so down to fight. You know Gane is down to fight. Blades, I think, will be down to fight. He's probably finishing up his medical suspension, or and then Volkov is super down to always fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. Rozenstruik has been fairly active, and then that's the drop off line where I don't see any of these young guys. Maybe with the exception of Tom Aspinall, and I still think he's pretty. I mean, he definitely needs some well rounding out to do, but like. None of those guys for Abarkmanov, Walt Harris, Sakai, Dawkins, Tybura, Ivanov, Aspinall, Pavlovich, Olenek. Like, none of those guys strike me as like a guy that's going to the moon anytime soon. Like I said, maybe Aspinall, maybe out of those people, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Right.
But the top end gives us plenty, and those guys will work it out. Man, fun episode, brother. Fun
Yeah,
episode. Fun
honestly.
card. And then next
13
week
fights.
is,
Oh,
yeah.
I was just gonna say 13 fights, like crazy that there are that many. Next week's obviously the pay-per-view.
Yeah,
Which
we got Izzy, we got Nate Diaz.
Davison Figueiredo Moreno.
Oh, what did I sleep on that?
That's the
Everybody's
co-main.
sleeping on it because the whole fucking world is.
That's the co-main.
I gotta say, and maybe I have to stick my foot in my mouth on next Sunday, but I feel good about Figueiredo on that one. I don't see Moreno.
I do too.
I do too. But that's considering that I considered it the first one pulling a rabbit out of the hat. Maybe it wasn't. Now, yeah, and then I said I felt pretty excited. The money line on Diaz Edwards is like what's making me not excited. They're saying it's not going to be competitive. Now, I have a hard time believing it's not going to be competitive. Like, I think it'll be competitive. I don't think Leon Edwards is going to just finish Nate Diaz or just beat the fuck out of him. No, he may beat the fuck out of him as far as blood because there's Nate Diaz, but
I bet he stops him in the third round.
You think? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, man. I'm holding on, man. I'm holding on to nostalgia, man.
You heard the early prediction here first. Leon Edwards stops Nate Diaz third round.
Yeah, man. And then,
but yeah, that's it. Bilal Muhammad fights on that card.
Oh yeah, he's fighting Kevin Lee.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Yeah.
It's a great card. It's that card is worth the money.
And on top of that, it's gonna be our 1 year anniversary, our 50th show. All fucking at once. It's gonna. I'm not the. You know what it is? It's Buffalo Trace time, baby. Next Sunday.
Yep.
Clear my books because I'm gonna be asleep by 3 p.m. Let's get it. Hell yeah! All right, man. Another fun one. This was episode 49 of Beefy Boys Breakdown. Like, subscribe on YouTube. Please go follow at Beefy Breakdown on Twitter. I'm at Dreadful Talk Dom on Instagram. Harrison_Madden on Twitter and Instagram for my partner here. Support the movement, everybody. We all love UFC. Let's enjoy it together. Let's discuss it together. Let's interact together. Let's form a community here. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Later, brother. Keep it beefy.